jumping out of executive session, and Kevin's doing a letter, and. And we're gonna pass,
You want us to just summarize it when we come in?
and put it out.
Open session?
Yes, you can. Who wants to summarize that?
I can do that.
You wanna,
I'll leave it. I'll leave it.
probably should go through all the particulars before you do that. And add that to the agenda and let him go first.
You mean,
Go through,
all the
call
way
the
to
meeting to order,
public
the,
overview.
yeah, your overview of Zoom and all that, and then wherever you, other business, or where is it?
Regular business, you mean?
Review agenda, right here.
Okay, you
When
want,
you do this.
Yeah.
You wanna put,
I'll add that.
put it ahead of. Right here, yeah.
My stuff.
Alrighty, okay, I'll call the meeting to order for 6:32. Review of the agenda for any additions, removal, adjustments, any items. We do have one addition, the explanation of our executive session of water. Okay,
Can you do that as our first order?
and we'll do that as our first order. Anything else? Do you have any other items?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Okay, we met executive session, discussing a water line on School Street, to the old high school, and our attorney Kevin Brown is here and will give an overview of what we discussed and the outcome.
So Michelle Hurley has done title work and determined that the water line that runs up from Park Street up School Street and then up the alley is actually not owned by the town of Bristol, which is what we expected. The school district reserved, when it conveyed the building back in 1988, it actually, for reasons unknown, reserved the rights to the water line. And then in 2018, executed a deed, quitclaim deed that conveyed all rights to the water line to the Mount Abe School District. So Mount Abe actually owns the water line to which five property owners are connected. We did not find any easements or connection easements in the land records. So at this point, the problem with leaks and such needs to be resolved by Mount Abe. The town has no rights at present to actually do anything with that water line. So I will notify the Mount Abe School District and the five owners, property owners by letter, of what we found and what the ownership status is, and then the select board will take it from there as issues arise about what to do in the future.
And we did decide to put a
Curb stop.
curb stop valve at the intersection of Park Street on the back and School Street where they come to meet. There'll be a valve there that we believe those are 1905 lines and 6 inches. And they were gonna put a valve there, so if we ever have any problem with that line going, that private line owned by the high school, the Union District, not the high school, the Union District, that it can be shut off. But that's where the board has decided to leave it at this time. We're going to write Mount Abe a letter
And the property owners,
and the property owners, as
Yep.
Kevin said,
separate letters.
separate letters for
Yeah.
our next outcome.
All right, so the leaking line problem, which we're aware with, that the Danglers made the town aware, that's at present, that's a issue that the town can't resolve because it doesn't own the line. And whatever the resolution it might be, it's between the property owners and Mount Abe.
But doesn't the town own the shut-offs?
Nope.
We're
We
going
don't own, for some reason, we don't own any of that. The deed says that,
As of 2018?
That's
Well,
what-
Before that, the Bristol School District owned it, and they conveyed it to the union when the union took over, when we merged all the schools in Addison North.
When the school district sold the property to a private party, Twin Birches,
Twin
Birches.
and they, for reasons unknown, they reserved the rights to the line, the water line. It's kind of a, we don't know why, that was in '88, so in 2018, the former school district conveyed the water line, all rights to the water line to the Mount Abe School District.
So who owns the shut offs?
Mount Abe School District, I guess. It's not the town.
There you go.
Well, you hook on to it.
Well, you gotta talk to them.
Probably wait until the curb stop goes in, just in case something
Yeah,
goes.
wait
goes
for the
haywire.
valve to go in.
But we're gonna get right on that.
Kevin's gonna draft the letter by probably the end of the week.
Yeah, it's not, well, I'll include the deeds that, you know, and, the good thing is, well, since it was 2019 or 2018, it's not ancient history with Mount Abe, why it would, you know, so.
Right.
Well, it's the same, in 2018, if you look back, that's when they got the Bristol on Winnipeg. What we
Okay.
refer to
Maybe
as
it's got
Mill
something to
Street
do with
School.
that, yeah,
They
okay.
got all the schools.
And that,
Right.
that deed was probably rolled in and nobody even
They
noticed
just
it.
didn't pick it up. It's like sign here, here, and here.
I heard the attorney to do the work and they did the work and nobody read
Well,
it.
Yeah, that's right.
So we'll want to reiterate some of this when we get to that agenda item about the school street bid process. Bring Steve up to speed.
Okay, is there any questions on? Yes.
Does that mean that the discussion of the extension is gonna be moot? I mean, it can't go forward?
I believe so, I think so.
Well,
We can-
this is agenda item 7 on the agenda, and we're gonna discuss next steps with the engineer.
Although you don't own the line and
We, the town, do not own the line. And you, the houses that are hooked to it, don't have any paperwork saying that you can be hooked to it. So I don't know what Mount Abe's gonna do, or what the Union District is gonna do. Ultimately, the town will probably end up with a right of way to the line.
But yeah, up until this point, nobody ever said anything different that the town didn't own it.
Right.
You know, I mean.
Nobody probably knew.
Yeah.
They just made an assumption.
I mean, when I bought that property was, you know, I had to talk to the water people.
Mhm.
And, make arrangements for that, which we did, which has never happened.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me that all the way back, whenever those houses were put in, that somebody just got permission.
Came to a trustees meeting, or the water commissioners at the time.
Well, no.
No, it would have been the
district.
school.
It would have been the school.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that
Well, that's true, they could have come
they
in.
could have come here and the
Right.
town could have let them hook on without.
the town certainly put all shut offs in there and everything.
I don't know.
I mean, you would, I guess you could.
You mean the
assume-
curb
I
stop?
guess- Yeah, I guess you could assume it either way, but.
Right.
the Town did.
Yes, sir.
so does that mean that the town could do the water line extension as you've been planning and just cut off the existing line and abandon it?
We can't do anything because we don't own any of it.
Can't-
The school owns.
You can't disconnect that line, because you don't own it.
I mean, we'd have to get
You can
easements.
turn the water off to it, so it's essentially.
Yeah, but
They only do it on payment, it's the only time we get to the water.
Mhm.
Or emergency.
Problem.
or with
Right,
a-
right.
with a leak,
Emergency,
you know,
I'm sorry,
we-
yeah,
we
emergency.
we could say, hey, this is a real problem, on Abe, you've gotta do
But you're,
something quick.
but you're saying you guys don't have a right to go shut the water off anymore.
You could shut it up, well, we don't have a good shut off. You know, so
We could shut it off.
We have
it's tough.
rights
To shut it off.
to,
to the line.
yes. The way the water ordinance is written, we have rights to get to those curb stops.
For lack of payment and a uniform disconnect
Yeah.
notice. That's it for that, you know, it's just for that piece, so.
But if there were a major leak down there and we had to shut it off right now, we'd have to shut off Park Street. Which shuts that whole,
Park and school.
Yeah, that whole.
Well, that shuts park, I think the shut off on Park, Jill said shuts off Park and
Yeah, you,
school.
Well, they call
Yeah.
it two streets.
you
Yeah.
shut it off on North Street
North Street.
and on West Street.
Right,
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
there's a valve at the end of Park Street where it touches north, and there's a valve at the end of School Street where it touches west. Both of those would have to be shut off in order to shut water off to that end of School Street.
Which
And to
shuts
put
the
the valve,
dentist,
the valve in.
the dentist and the Baptist church off, and the county.
And all the houses, yep. And the church that's on the corner of School and West would also lose water because their service is on the left side of that line.
So where are we at with this now? Are you guys done with it?
It's agenda item 7.
Well-
With that part, I mean. with the-
well, we're done with our discussion for now, we've got to write the letters, because we're sure the school doesn't, it's not on their radar.
Right.
So we just need to get the information out to
Yeah,
all the
we can
homeowners
get that out this
and the
week.
school.
Have to figure out at Mount Aid who's the best recipient for that letter, so it doesn't sit in an inbox.
I would send it to Floyd Davidson and to
With a-
Patrick Green.
With a copy to Patrick, I was gonna say. I would send them
Yeah,
both of them.
so I would send it to Floyd with a copy to Patrick. Patrick, their facilities director left. And Dawn Mickelson is the assistant, so maybe copy her as well, because she's good at getting things moving. So those would be your 3.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Jill.
And item, Joe,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Would the solution for this be if the school district deeded the right of way to the town?
that's one possible solution.
That would seem to be the cleanest.
It is.
But I'm not sure, as representing the taxpayers of the district,
The
water
water,
district,
the rate players.
the ratepayers. Who have to,
Which we are.
well, if we all are, or some of us are. That, you know, we're going to have to replace a line that we didn't own in the first place,
It's currently a private line.
currently a private line. And we don't wanna possibly set a precedent that says, okay,
It's actually a quasi-public line because it's owned by the school district, right? I think the lawyer mentioned that.
The school district's a separate, it's a municipality, just not this one.
Right. So it's essentially
It's clean as
public in
mud.
that sense.
really is, it's clear as mud.
Well, it's clear, I mean, it's
Clear water.
the ultimate question is, the cost of an upgrade and who bears the cost?
Right. I mean, I think as we've discussed in previous meetings,
And what?
our ultimate goal is to hopefully update that line, get a handle on what's there and how it is connecting to the residents, and then own that line and maintain it. Since that line and its repair or replacement has never been on our radar in terms of needing a replacement. Item 7 discusses potential for upgrading that line and the costs. And so we have to figure out, now that we have more firm data on who owns it, there's that discussion in terms of legally who owns it and what can be done. And also where the potential funding might come from to make those updates if we get permission to do anything with that line.
Basically, we don't want to take a failed line. We don't want the school district to give us a failed line. We would like them to fix it before they give it to us.
That would be ideal outcome.
Yeah, I don't
Would be ideal.
necessarily see that happening.
Yes. But that would be, I think, the next discussion is to have Kevin draft that letter and begin that discussion with the school, who probably aren't thinking about.
But there again, we don't know if that line's failed. We know there's a leak in the line.
Right, we don't have,
All I need to
we
do
have
is
some
turn on the
information.
Shut off.
Right.
And
Excuse me, what about?
I said, well, you're saying failed line, but we don't know that the line is failed. There's a leak in the line where I need to hook up to a shut off to resolve the problem on the property that I bought, that everybody up until just today told me that you guys don't own the water line. I mean, I've been told right along that you do.
Right.
Right, but we didn't know that, but I mean, I gotta resolve this thing, you know, I mean.
You've got pressure, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think as it currently stands, if if we're gonna jump on putting the valve in on the corner of school and church, school and, is it church? Park,
Park.
school and park, yeah, church is the other way. And as soon as that's in, if now Abe says you can hook onto that, you can put your line
And we'll see what happens.
in.
And potentially nothing would happen,
I don't think.
as you had mentioned at previous
I mean,
meetings.
I
our
don't think
operator,
I don't think I boxed that all.
Right.
I mean, our
I mean,
operator
so
will
we'll
be
see.
able to shut the water
I know they're
off.
saying it's 100 years old, but I mean, the place was built around in the 40s. You know, how can that box be put in 30 years prior to that?
Well, the school was built in the
Yeah, but
eighteen
no,
hundreds.
Yeah,
but I mean.
Yeah, well, I know that, but the school needed water then, I have no idea.
I mean, they certainly.
The main line,
He's not tying into that 2 inch or inch and a half what's going to the high school.
he's tying into a curb.
I mean,
Curb box,
he's,
10 feet away.
I mean, we certainly turned it on, shut it off several times, no problem at all.
Well, if Mount Abe says, Floyd says, go ahead.
Well, I'll just
Yeah,
write in the
we're good to
name,
go.
I'll go see him tomorrow.
Well, might wanna wait until we like let them know something's going
But
on.
it's urgent to me, I mean.
I understand that,
I wanna
but-
give the house to my kid, but I gotta make sure it's fixed before I do
Yeah,
that.
I'll get the
Yeah.
letter out quickly. And,
Yeah, if you're able to wait a week, maybe, then that would be beneficial.
Get blindsided because they,
Right.
what the heck? we
Depends on
done?
what your time frame is on putting in that curb stop.
Mhm.
At least ideally depends on that.
Jill,
Everybody's looking at Jill, what's your timing?
Well, this is-
I don't own the curb stop. Are you guys wanting us to replace it?
There's not
No.
one there.
They're not,
No.
we're talking about on the corner of school and church, what we had talked about previously
School and
about
park.
putting a
School and
water
park.
shut off valve there.
Are you ready?
We'd like a valve put in there.
I asked that last fall.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know.
Yay!
And we know.
Okay, that'll be great. And then if something goes wrong when the service is being replaced down the road, then we can shut it off and then it can be dealt with at the time.
What do you,
Right.
what do you feel the timing is on that?
For you to get that done.
I own a 2-inch curb and a curb box. I just need an oversized,
That's a 6 inch main there. That's what we're
No,
putting.
it's an inch in the whatever galvanized is what we're thinking.
oh, you're right. It's 1.25 inches. I might need to get, I had one and I returned it. I know EJ Prescott has the one I just returned a week ago. That's 1.25 inch curb, 2-sided. I'll have to double check though, cause I gotta attach to Galvy. Let me just talk to,
But you'll, on one side, you'll attach to the corporation. So you'll put a new piece of pipe between the corp and the curb stop, and then the other side you gotta attach to Galvy.
I do. That's gonna be
Which
super
would
fun.
be, I would say you're gonna probably want a compression fitting and,
Yeah, and it's a little different on the OD, so let me talk to Prescott so I can make sure I can get the right parts, but most things are in stock within 1 to 3 days, so hopefully, I don't know, early next week would be the latest, I would say.
Labor Day's Monday, so.
Oh, I worked last year on Labor Day on that leak on West Pleasant, I don't wanna work Labor Day again, so.
Well, that's what I'm saying, so early
let's-
next week, it's gonna be Tuesday, Wednesday.
Okay, if we have dry weather, let's try to, let me get parts and we'll try to have it done before the end of next week.
Will that require notice to all of the folks on park and school about loss of water during that time?
Not if the corp works. I guess let's do a tentative notice for water interruption just in case, but if the corporation works, I'll shut it off at the corp. Which means go down to the water main, exercise the corporation, which is the shut off right at the main, make all the attachments. And then turn it back on. So the people that will be without water will definitely be on that extension of School Street, but the rest of from Park and the rest of school would only be if the corp doesn't work. If the corp doesn't shut it off, I would have to shut off the valves.
Be confused.
So you'll have those 5.
Yeah.
Yep, so it'll
gym.
be 5, and then the maximum extent of reach would be all of
8.
Park. Yep,
Okay.
yep.
Mhm.
Yeah,
does
so
the
kind of like
Bosworth
best
House
case
or
worst-
Terracum, does that come off of North or does that come off of Park?
Which one?
Terracum,
There's some,
Is that the
Wow.
rainbow one? The white rainbow
one
one?
on the corner of North and Park.
That comes off of North, that's on the front. Yep, yeah,
Okay.
so it would be,
so
Good.
just those 8.
I thought they were putting
Okay,
two.
thank you, Joe.
6 inch main.
That
You're
sounds
welcome.
great.
I thought they were gonna put 2 right side by side, the
Okay.
6 inch main.
No, no, just in the line going that way. You don't wanna cut that 6-inch main,
Okay, let's move on.
Okay,
and you don't wanna pay for those valves.
okay. So we're gonna decide, we all kind of, I know that's not probably the answer you wanted to hear yet, but we're gonna discuss more.
All
about-
new news, so.
Mhm.
You're finding out what we're finding out. Okay. Overview of Zoom meeting operations.
You already did.
Get on
No, we didn't. 'cause we
Yeah, you
didn't.
did.
it. You did it.
You did it because that was number one after.
Overview of Zoom meeting operations, procedure rules for participation, mute your microphone and recognized by the chair. I didn't read that yet.
Well, you should have.
No, because I had 2A, you wanted it.
That's okay.
Public
move on.
forum. Okay, public forum, anybody?
I'd like to thank Bristol Core for putting on Pocock Rocks last
Yeah.
Saturday. It was very successful. I'd like to thank Courtney Radford, she's the new executive director of that organization. And she did a fantastic job for her first year doing that event. And I'd also mention to folks who are interested that I used to be on the board. I stepped down. I was on the board, Bristol Core Board for 14 years and recently stepped down just to focus more on select board stuff. But I wanted to thank everyone who's helped me over the years with that organization. And I'm glad that it's in new hands and a great group of people who are on the board.
Alrighty, anybody out here?
Might want to see if anybody on,
Anybody out there, for public forum? Okay, department head roundtable, anybody on? Jill's on, Sharon's here,
Brett,
Eric's here.
Brett's online.
Brett,
Oh, Brett, yeah. Brett, you wanna go first? We've had a report view for a while.
Sure. Sorry, no report.
That's a good report, thank you, Eric.
Well, some of you have probably noticed Pine Street's been ground.
I hadn't noticed.
Friday,
put this up here.
we shaped it up today.
You widened it.
Picked up we ain't done widening it yet. And picked up all the big chunks and stuff there. That got pulled down, we chlorided it, so hopefully the dust will stay down for quite a while. Started drawing sand,
Can you update us on when that's gonna be paved?
hopefully by the end of September.
Yes, because we've already had people coming in and ask.
Right.
Hopefully by the end of November.
God, complain that they want it paved and now they're complaining that it's dirt.
How did the installs go for the new catch basins that you put in along there?
They went good. I gotta change out one cover. Down by across from Taylor. The inlet to it is too far away from the curb for what I want. So I ordered and I talked to Peaker about it and, you know, me and him went back and forth on it. And ultimately I decided to buy a cover with an offset hole in it. So it'll put the grate closer to the curb, so the water will get into it better rather than going by it.
Yeah, great.
And Driscoll said that they would change the cover out when I got it, so.
Okay.
Just question.
Yeah.
Why do we grind that road up 30 days prior to repaving it? I don't quite understand that part of it.
Because there's stuff that needs to be done ahead of time, like, I wanted to reshape the road for one thing, which didn't need to be done 30 days ahead of time. But with the grinders is such a demand that it's one, like Lincoln Road, I wanna grind, but I can't get that back here for another month before I can get it back here to grind Lincoln Road. So it just depends on when they have available time to come do it. And this time they had time to do it now. And if I could get it paved quicker than that, and with pipe scheduling, is with the flooding and stuff, if I can get it done before the month is, you know, end of September, I'll get it done as quick as I can. But I'm just shooting for that.
This is just a first coat, right?
This is just a 2-inch base,
Right.
2.5-inch base that's going on. Yeah, and then we'll let it ride for, you know, say a couple years to get the traffic to all pound it down.
Still here, or do I hang or not?
Okay, if you wanna do the water, you don't need to do the water bids?
No,
No, okay. No, I think
So,
Okay,
the JWs.
any other things there?
Just hopefully the truck, the international will be done soon. I'm assuming it was a sensor, seeing as how I got a bill for a sensor.
Just there's something wrong with it then, I think.
Yeah, something to do with transmission. It wouldn't come out of gear, it would stay locked in gear. So every time you wanted to shift, to go from forward to reverse, you had to shut truck off. Turn it back on, go to reverse, shut truck off, turn it back on, go to forward.
You wanna make sure you made it right the first time, huh?
Yeah, so anyways, it's over to Bristol Diesel. They took it over, they got the Allison,
Program.
yes. The diagnostic, and it was a bad wire or a sensor, and ended up being a sensor. So, and then, like I said, we started drawing winter sand. That's about it.
And Lincoln Road,
Roof? What roof?
The one that you said fell in?
Oh, yeah, we took care of the salt shed, the old salt shed, that roof fell in, so we decided we better take care of the
Been
rest of it.
falling in for a number of years. They finally-
The rest of it, not fell in, so I decided that it should go. Now I'm gonna ask you guys to put a building back there.
No, no. Yes, I want.
and let's just put it out there about Lincoln Road being closed first week of September for an estimate of about a month.
And then they're gonna grind that one. Third week of September? No, not September. Yes, third week of September. Yeah, right around the third to fourth week of September, they're gonna grind that. And then we gotta reshape that, so that one will be dirt for probably 2 to 3 weeks before we get that.
So with the closing for a month, is that 24 hours a day closed?
Yep.
For 30 days or 31?
Estimated
Okay, and then the alternate route is Briggs
is
Hill,
Briggs Hill Road and Atkins Road in Lincoln.
okay,
Or go the Notch Road, upper Notch to get into Lincoln that way.
Or Quaker Street.
Quaker down.
and if it's Briggs Hill, is that still,
One way.
lane.
okay, and that has the traffic lights there?
Correct.
Just so the public knows about
Right,
that, what to
and
expect.
one thing that Eric found is that vehicles with the lights on the roof,
The
they
strobes.
they deactivate the signal. So it stays red on both sides, and it'll stay that way as long as it senses the lights, and that's for emergency vehicles to allow emergency vehicles to go through without anybody in the way. But, so one way, I guess, to do that is you just go. Even though it's gonna be red, you just go and.
If you're an emergency vehicle.
Or even just a construction vehicle or
Oh.
anything, because
You
it's gonna
still
be
gotta
red on
wait for
both
the road to
sides.
clear. If it was red when you pulled up, you gotta wait for the road to clear.
Yeah, you should wait at least, I think the time in between the reds are a minute 20. I think it's the time
Okay.
between the reds. So if you're actually emergency vehicle and you're coming up here and it's red, I would wait at least 30 seconds to a minute just to make sure no cars are coming down before they continue up through.
Otherwise, it'll just stay
Right,
red
because
forever.
you can't see the other light, it's at the top, right, around the corner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
I
And it's
went
a
up the
long,
other night
long
to a
stretch.
fire
Yeah.
Fire
Okay.
call. I went to a fire call the other night, we did.
Yeah, up there.
I was driving, you know,
Oh, my.
for
Thanks,
Parker's old place.
Oh, Parker's old place?
Yeah. Just.
Okay.
Okay, thanks. Anything else there?
No, I think that should pretty much do it.
Okay. Sharon, anything? Well, you got through your
I think
election?
We got through this election, working on the next one already.
There's another one?
Yeah, delinquent tax bills went out last week, delinquent water bills and, went out last week, and new sewer bills went out last week. So, yeah, stuff for the November election is already up and running. And that's it for now. Well, we do have, Denver coming a couple days this week to help close out the month end, and all the processes we need to be doing.
Chris.
I got nothing.
He's quick.
Are you gonna work with the municipal?
No.
Yeah, he's assistant clerk, assistant treasurer.
Yeah.
So he's not.
We didn't change that?
No, she's the clerk.
She's the clerk treasurer.
She's the clerk.
And delinquent tax
And
bill.
delinquent tax bill.
Anything else?
Okay,
Will you work with the municipal guy with Nemrick? I think that was our last email.
Yep.
Okay, great.
Sharon, could I ask you a quick question? Have you heard from Kevin Brennan about taxa?
No, I sent him an email the other day and he hasn't responded.
I called him and he hasn't responded to me either. I will go hunt him down. I know where he lives.
Alrighty.
Got a point.
Let's see.
I'll take that one.
Bruce on. So, okay, I think we got everybody. You ready? Regular business.
Sorry. Since I know there's a bunch of people here for item 7, but I don't know how much we will talk about that, given what we previously discussed, and for Maitland and Bruce, who have just joined us now.
And also Tom Wells is online.
Tom's on.
Okay.
You see that?
So I don't know if we wanna mention to people, because I don't think, I mean, we can look at the bids and discuss that, but we're unable to take any action
Right.
towards that because of the information that was presented in executive session.
I see.
So what's your pleasure? Should have moved it if we wanted to move it.
Mhm.
We,
I mean, move or explain to the residents. You have-
Well, if we're gonna explain, we might as well move it.
Right.
Okay, you wanna do that?
I-
Would that be
if
okay?
you're
Sorry.
okay with that, I can move it and read it now. And skip over and go back and start with number 1 afterwards. Everybody's,
Although, I mean, the 1 and 2 shouldn't take very long.
nope,
Yeah, I don't mean to be rude or interrupt, but I do have to put my kid to bed. I thought we'd be a little bit sooner than this, so I know I've kind of taken a lot on 7 already, and my slot is 5 minutes. So if it's possible to do that, that'd be sweet for me.
okay,
Yeah, I would do the first 2.
I'll do the first 3 probably.
All right, thanks,
Okay,
Joe.
and then, all right, consider conservative commission candidate Roger Sullivan. Roger, you wanna?
That is me.
Yep.
Hi, Roger.
Select Board Committee. I am Roger Sullivan. I'm not really sure. I've never done this before, so I guess y'all let me know what you're looking for.
Have you ever been to a commission meeting?
No, this is my first one. Yeah,
You know
I
what
went
to do?
to, I mean, oh,
How
sorry,
did
go
you
ahead.
hear about it? How did you hear about it and you,
He did attend a conservation commission meeting.
Committee meeting, yeah, but not a select board meeting. That's correct.
oh, no, I was asking for conservation commission.
And they didn't scare you?
No, they were cool. Yeah, unfortunately it was Zoom and then it was like the month before last and they were off last month and then we're getting together this month. So it has been a little weird, but I heard about it through, well, my son goes to Bristol Elementary and I just overheard honestly that they were looking for somebody. And so I talked with them about it. Yeah.
And why are you interested?
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of I guess brief overview. We recently moved here like about a year and a half ago. And it's kind of almost an excuse to get to know the area better, right? So I'm interested obviously in nature and conservation, hunting as well, and I actually took the Hunter's Education course here a couple of months ago. And they were talking a lot in there about conservation and kind of like messaging around that kind of the benefits. Sorry, I'm kind of spacing out, but the benefits of like hunting and keeping nature wild and such what's also like kind of on the not necessarily the flip side, but kind of like the well, kind of right. So like Conservation Commission in my mind kind of does like the keeping things wild, right? But then they also do kind of like the parks bit, right? So thank you for blacking that up. My address is on there. Yes, I live on Upper Notch Road. And so and that's kind of one of the reasons I bought on Upper Notch is we've got, you know, a little bit of woods in the back and it's nice up here. It's a little bit more wild than in town. But anyways, my point being just that I kind of like the juxtaposition of being able to be like, hey, we can focus on these parks or like the accessibility I know is one of the things we were talking about, like in certain parks and then in other parks and other parts, like trying not to touch it, right? I was reading and kind of stuff that they were posting about the like animal causeways essentially, right? So I thought that was really interesting as well. Yeah, so I guess whenever I had that call with everybody, it seemed like there were various people working on kind of different projects, and they all seemed interesting in different ways to me, I guess.
Okay, thank you. Okay, what's your pleasure, people?
We make a motion, we appoint him to the Conservation Commission. Do we have it? Is it a 1 year? Does anybody know?
It looks like it's a,
3-year.
1 year?
We got a live one, we better take it 3 years.
so that would be, March 2027, you would start.
There you go.
Okay,
Second.
There's a motion to second to appoint
Don't fight
Roger.
over it.
Yeah, sure.
I guess Michelle met Roger Sullivan. She
Correct.
didn't say the name, so. Okay, any more discussion from us? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay.
Great.
Welcome aboard, Roger.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Roger.
Roger.
Thanks, Kelly. I appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
Consider appointment of library trustee to fill a vacant Vicky Cole.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Hi there.
I was looking up there first. Okay, yes, hi.
Hi.
Just give us quickly why you want to serve on the library trustee?
I was looking forward to living in the village, for one reason, because I'm a 2-minute walk from the library, which is fabulous. And when my kids were little, we used the library all the time, like weekly Saturday trips to the library, programs at the library, and then young adult and adult programs at the library. And I've just really been impressed with the level of programming that the Bristol Library offers. It really is pretty vibrant and seems to work to cover a whole range of ages. I think the Library of Things and the fact that you can get the state park pass there or other passes is, I know that's in other Vermont libraries too, but that's just really says a lot about community. So yeah, and I had a long career as a nonprofit administrator and lawyer, and I think because of that, I can bring something to help if necessary in terms of governance.
And she already attended a meeting. Yes, I knew you were gonna ask that. She attended the last one.
Okay,
Okay, I make a motion to appoint Vicky Cole.
Second.
there's a motion and a second.
As a library trustee.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Okay, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Thank you. Set the municipal tax rate. What everybody's lovely job they love to do. Sharon or Valerie, you got that for us?
Sharon.
Sharon?
Are you gonna put it up, Valerie?
I'm working on that, yeah.
I like the second one, even if it wasn't that much lower.
Yeah, but it did change.
It did.
So those figures are based upon the voted budget amounts at town meeting. And as Sharon noted, the recreation department figure was corrected from the floor. And so that's what this correction is from what was originally posted. And Sharon, what's the bottom line increase for the municipal?
For the municipal.
To say 5
.8273, it says municipal tax rate without the police
Right.
district.
And the percentage is 2.31.
So you go up or down?
You know better than to ask that question. It always goes up.
That's not true. Some of them go down, but the overall one usually winds up going up.
The homestead tax rate's gonna be $2.80.
You want somebody to just read them off?
Go ahead.
Okay, the tax rates for 2024, 2025. The homestead tax rate will be 2.8037. The non-residential tax rate will be 2.7547. The police district tax rate is 0.3255, which means the homestead tax rate in the police district is 3.1292. And the non-residential tax rate in the police district will be 3.0802.
Okay.
Our CLA keeps going down.
Yeah.
Is there a motion to accept that? I got to.
I'll make a
Motion
motion.
to set it.
Set
Set
it,
it.
set the
I'll make
tax
a
rate.
motion to set tax rate
As
as I
printed.
just indicated.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Just or groan? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay, now we'll go to number 7. Water commissioners, put your commissioner hat on, please. Consider construction bids for the School Street Extension Water Line Replacement Project, possible award of a contract, source of funding and other next steps. Steve Palmer, our engineer, will lead the discussion or get in on the discussion. Steven, would you like to,
Well, we
us
probably
to
have,
brief him
we need to brief, we need to brief
Yes.
first.
We need to explain,
to everybody
right,
who's showed up, who's
Yeah.
been in the room? or on-
Steve, are you there just so you can hear before we start talking and you're not there? He's probably not there because he's thinking it's gonna be later.
Right.
I'll text him.
yeah, that's what I said.
While we're waiting, you have an extra piece of chocolate up here. Anyone? Any takers?
Interferes with a good night's sleep.
Steve is on. He's just having a hard time with audio.
Okay.
Okay.
So he's
So he
trying
can
to get
hear
the
us?
audio, but he said, go ahead and explain, and he didn't know that it was even necessary to go over the bids or recommendation given the situation.
Can he hear us, Jill?
He can hear you, you just can't hear his audio.
Okay.
Okay, all right. So for Bruce Matlock and Tom,
Carol.
Yeah, Carol's on too.
Oh, yeah. Carol joined.
and Carol. So what we did, research in the land records and determined that the town does not own the water lines. The Mount Abe Union High School District owns the water line. It was conveyed to them in 2018. So the town has no ownership of the water lines. We also did not really find any kind of easements that allows the 5 residentials to be connected to that water line that the school owns. So our plan at this point is to notify the school and all the landowners who are here, what we found and what next steps are. We're gonna see what the school has to say. But ultimately, we gotta figure out moving forward. But what the town's gonna do is put in a water stop.
Curb stop.
Curbs, well, is it a curb stop? Is that what you call it? The curb stop on the corner of School and Park. So that if something were to happen, we can at least shut off that extension without shutting off all of Park and School. And that Jill's gonna hopefully do by early next week, mid next week, not early, mid next week.
Yeah, and what that also does, just to kind of reiterate, is that's the one element that we need so that Dale Dingler can go ahead and get the service line replaced. So if there happens to be a catastrophic failure at that point, we can shut that segment off and handle it without having to shut off all of Park and all of School.
Right.
So it's
They'll just gonna go to the Buffalo box, correct? Not to the line, but just to the curb stop, his curb stop.
if possible. That would be the easy peasy. What if it gets more complicated? It gets more complicated.
So can I ask the question? Is that
Mhm.
okay, Mr. Chairman? Or are you not?
Yeah, go ahead. Tom. Sorry.
Mike, you're making a provision for a catastrophic failure that would allow you to continue all of the water district property and would essentially leave everybody on School Street with no solution at all, I guess.
No, we never do that. Okay, there's
Okay.
always a solution. It's just a way to not have to shut off more water services for a potentially longer period of time than hours. So
Okay.
sometimes the repair doesn't take 2 or 3 hours. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days because it gets bigger and bigger because it's an old galvanized line that breaks into a million pieces.
No,
So
Jill,
we
I
just wanna be
understand that. So I appreciate that clarification. I understand the shut off and why that would be good, as long as it doesn't imply that you're going to just shut it off and just say, you've got a problem down there.
No, we would never do that. Never
All
ever.
right, thank you.
So
Thank
just
you.
making sure that there's a fail safe.
Yep, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I also want to point out that while we're focusing on the residential properties, if the water gets turned off, I expect that all those businesses in the building will also be affected. So
All the businesses
Right.
in the gym.
Right,
Yeah, the
exactly.
gym building.
Yeah.
So,
Well, there
well,
are
we might not
obviously,
have direct communication line to let folks know that they might be without water.
yeah,
Those are the
obviously
tenants.
the water usage in the office part of the building is pretty nominal. I mean, there are bathrooms and they support those offices, and we would need to provide that. To the gym, more important, although they probably could temporarily ask people not to use locker rooms, but but generally the water usage and sewer usage in an office building and even a gym is much less than the residential. So the residential people are the ones with a real crisis.
Mhm.
And we're obviously hoping that there isn't a crisis. You know, as I've mentioned previously, you know, the town is looking to own that extension. And it's how we get to that. That's what we're discussing now that we have this new information about who actually owns the water line.
And so I have a question. You said it was conveyed in 2018. Who
Correct.
conveyed it to the school district in 2018?
The Bristol Town School District conveyed it to MAUSD.
The Bristol district conveyed it to them, and
When they took over when they formed Addison Northeast.
understood. Okay. I mean, my feeling on this generally, as to the street and the water, is that this is all just a mistake. Wasn't very well handled. It should have obviously, the whole thing when the school district got out of owning this property, that's the time at which this should have been conveyed to the community. I mean, to the Bristol. I know that gives you guys extra responsibility, but that's what should have happened at that time. If improvements needed to be made, should have been made. It's just, you know, obviously you used to have a non-tax paying entity, at least in the case of the school district property, not in the other ones. And it should have been fixed way back when the school was conveyed, but whatever.
Well, for some reason, the school specifically reserved that water line and the roadway and then conveyed, they only recently, 1980s, conveyed the roadway right of way to all of the, or an easement to all of the people for the roadway. We don't know why they did what they did, but
I mean, it
that's what they
was
did.
40 years ago, it probably if they'd have said they wanted to give the water line to the town would have taken it with open arms.
Mhm.
Right, so the easement with it, the deed is the water
Hold on,
line and the bell box. As you and I know, when I was
Yeah.
doing the research
Well,
for the other.
And they have the bell box out front that nobody wants to take care of or improve, but they still own it.
Yeah.
And that one they want to keep. Now, maybe they want to keep a pipe too, and then I guess you can charge them to take care of it, but makes no sense. None of this makes any sense at all.
Right, it's gonna make less sense for them when they realize that they might have to do some major work on it.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, in fairness to them, you know, I think it's just a mistake. It just didn't get properly done. And then the fact that they did the conveyance from the Bristol School District to the school district. No, did anybody bother to say, what are we doing?
No, they had to, once they did the big district, they had to convey all of the property.
Yeah, I understand, but I don't want to say bad things about lawyers because they're all very, very smart. But somebody wasn't paying attention when they were conveying. Why exactly do we want the pipe out in the sea?
Well, I think the lawyers did what they were told and
Right.
just prepared all the properties and
That's right.
and whoever was on the school end of it didn't read through everything. Which,
Well, I'll speak for one lawyer. I think I would point out to my client that maybe you don't want to take this conveyance. What is this? Why are you doing this?
I wonder if back in the day of 2018, if the select board or trustees at that time were asked and they said no.
My guess is
No.
probably not.
Well, Figure was here and
no.
in 18, I was here.
Okay,
And you remember Michelle?
there you have it.
And I think Carol was on the board at that time too, and I
Well,
don't think that
that
happened.
explains it, Carol.
It's her fault. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Now I know who to blame.
Okay.
I don't know why in 1988 they didn't. So we're selling you a building
Should we see if there are other questions?
Yeah, I would.
Okay.
Well, they wouldn't
And-
have wanted to, and honestly, the buyer, we weren't the buyer at that time, that was a different buyer, but that buyer would have said, we don't want that. We want you to convey that to the town, you know.
That's
And
what
once
we
in a while,
should've-
if there was something inferior about either the road or the water system, it wouldn't be unusual to maybe have a negotiation and that's got to get fixed or something before the town took it. That happens sometimes, but generally speaking, you know, taxpayers, it's a road, the town's going to take it.
Yeah, okay.
All right, thanks,
Thanks,
Tom.
Tom. Anybody else got any? You guys must have some questions. You know, you guys are got briefed and you guys got everything.
My question is, did I hear correctly Ian say that it is the overall intent of the select board to have the town of Bristol take over the water line?
Eventually, but we're not gonna take over a broken line. If there's a problem with it, you know, we want it fixed before we're gonna take it over. But we have to figure out what the school wants to do, is gonna do. I mean, our guess is they have no idea. They have no idea they own this water line.
It was in a stack of deeds and nobody read through the deeds and
Just took them. They said convey all that we own, all that the school districts own to MAUSD, and that's what they did. So they have no, I'm sure they have no idea. I know they own the bell tower house.
Yeah.
But
It's
I'm sure they
curious.
have no idea.
It's curious that there has been no specific shut off for that segment of the water
Mhm.
line. It implies that if there were a shut off, it would be a separate water line. But absent a shut off,
but when was it put in?
but absent a shut off, one would think, oh, it's a whole line. It's a single line.
It's not the same though, because the line.
It's a corporation.
finance-
It's a corporation in a water line. It was a single line that went to a school. It's a corporation. It's not a
Extension of the line from school, the first
no,
part.
it's weird. It's not traditional. It's nothing that anybody would design and with a good conscience. It's a water service that had connections added to it that is not.
Yeah, Jill, from what you said earlier, if you're right about that, apparently those different connections, and those houses have been there for a long time, were apparently made without any specific agreement or legal, you know, connection.
All we
No
know is where we are
Although
today.
somebody obviously agreed at the time and they connected into it.
So Steve has texted that one, there's really not a reason to discuss the bids at this point, but also he said it likely started out as a service line to the school, and then everybody got added to it over time.
Yeah.
If you don't want to discuss bids and legally you may not want to, I'd be just curious, can you share with us the general magnitude of how big a repair it is and what we're looking at here?
Yeah,
Bingo.
Okay, thank you. Yes, that's the magnitude.
And
Plus engineering, plus easements.
Right, yeah, but that's just construction. And if Steve was able to join us with the audio, he would tell us that this was not a good time to do bidding. So we all think those are high figures, and if it was done at a different time of year, under different circumstances perhaps, that they could be more competitive at another time.
Not in the middle of flood damage.
Yeah.
Well, I think Joel can tell us for sure that number 4 is not competitive. They don't want the job.
Right.
They're a long ways away too.
Yeah, they are.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah, okay. Any more questions?
well, but there again, I know I'm kind of talking in circles, but up until tonight or this last week, you know, nobody ever knew that the town didn't own that water line. I've always been led to believe that you did own it. I mean, they were gonna hook it up last November, which they didn't do. I knew it was gonna happen anyways, but it's been probably a 12-year issue now, that it just kept getting thrown to the side. Now we're in the 11th hour, and now we just found out that you guys don't own the water line.
Facts
Dale,
are
Dale, that
friends.
water line has never been on the maps of the water system. we as water
The
system
leak there has
operators,
been
What?
The leak has been for quite a long time.
Your link to your place, yeah. And, if we put everybody, we couldn't put everybody's property. If one owner from every property showed up that had a leak in this town, we couldn't put them out in this front.
No, I'm sure that, but I bought the property being told that, yeah, all I could do is get all the water department. I knew I had to put a new water line in. I wasn't sold anything different than that.
And we all believed until Michelle did her research and Kevin confirmed it, that the Union District 28, who owns all the schools in this district, owns it.
See, I just see this turning into a real mess.
Yeah.
Well, you should be able to, once we get.
MAUSD
Yeah, we'll let it go.
informed.
Well, once we get them informed and we get that shut off, then you should be able to put your water line.
I don't see why they wouldn't give you permission to do that.
There's a legal question here, maybe Kevin or Michelle, if you've looked into it. If this was conveyed, when the conveyance was made to the predecessor entitled to the school and to the other people, in theory, if there was a right in I guess district or the Bristol School District at that point, if they were not, they had a right or an easement essentially for this water because they don't own the land. The land was conveyed.
Right.
That should have turned up in title searches and should be in deeds, all of the deeds. So something's wrong here. I think this is just a sloppy mistake.
I mean, your deed specifically says the school reserved the water line. They reserved ownership of the water line, and retained the easement to maintain, replace, repair, whatever necessary if they had to.
Okay.
The rest of the properties did not have that in there. And there was no mention that we could see for them having permission to connect on. So somewhere somebody gave permission, but it was never officially documented.
And it could have been the trustees of the water commissioners or whoever was in charge at the time, not knowing what we know now.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with my mistake because I don't think anybody knowingly did it. Knowingly did this. There was no intent to keep this, or none of this makes any sense. You know, I can't see any logical reason why the school district would want to continue to own this.
Well, they knowingly did it when they conveyed to
EPJ.
No,
EPJ.
it's before them.
Twin State.
Oh.
Twin
Birches.
Twin
They
Birches, yeah.
I mean, they knew they were reserving the water line. Why they reserved it, I don't know. Was their intention to then convey it? Maybe, but they never did.
But why? What logical reason would they possibly have to want to own a water line on a piece of property they sold? Yeah.
Why does the school district do some of the things they do? I don't know.
Yeah, well, they do some crazy things, but I'm still going to go with mistake because it's kind of there's sometimes where you're either dumb or dishonest, and so I don't think they're dishonest. So I'm unfortunately, I guess that means I think that it's the other.
Well, the facts are here. Now we can move forward and figure out next steps.
Okay. Any more? We're beating this up? I'm sorry.
So
not the answers we want.
we won't review the bids.
Right.
Okay.
Because we're not going to do the work right now.
Right now.
Okay. So I'll go back to number 4 then.
Yep.
Public hearing, Bristol Cap.
Well, I wonder if, with Chris here and other folks here interested in water, if you want to go over the rates.
How about personally?
Okay.
Either way.
I was gonna say, boy, we're just messing up this.
Yeah. I really want to.
I don't know that anybody here is
Public hearing
fighting.
is supposed to start at 7, it says here. but
Yeah.
We're a little late.
Right on schedule.
Bristol Capital Improvement Plan
Yeah.
for fiscal 2025 through 2030. We're gonna hold you to 15 minutes.
Great. So we began to look at this at the last meeting, and as you know, I've had a boatload of technical problems with computers and stuff, so I was not able to bring the draft document further along.
Take care.
But I just want to highlight, without repeating all the stuff that we reviewed last time, I want to show you what I did add. And kind of scroll to that part of the, let's see. Let's see here. So as I mentioned at the previous meeting, there is some time pressure to adopt a capital improvement plan because of the downtown designation renewal. The final application needs to be submitted next week, actually the end of this week. Being that this is a planning document, it's okay if it's not complete entirely, or if it continues to evolve, and it's not, doesn't commit the town to anything. The goal is, one of the goals is to reflect our investments in this current fiscal year, FY '25, and then from 26 to 30, it's a planning document. So it's not a commitment. And so there are still sections of the draft that I had not had a chance to get to because I was without a computer or wasn't doing what it needed to do. So there are still sections that I would like to complete. I don't believe that they're going to be substantive necessarily, but more helpful background. I am trying to include, at the last meeting, we did talk about the new facility. And there was a recommendation about the voter approval for a bond. Whether to do that for the town for a new police facility. And I wasn't quite sure how that came out. I didn't get the minutes until Saturday of that meeting, so I haven't had a chance to review them. But I don't think there's anything really heavy duty in terms of recommendations in this draft document. I'm also trying to include the public works and the recreation facilities. And one of the things I've been doing is trying to capture the recent discussions about the gravel pit and also the skate park. So I'm trying to make sure that the narrative reflects some of those priorities. And the water system, I haven't had a chance to update the narrative to include the Bristol West and Bristol East information. So even though there's stuff to be filled in, I'm hopeful that the select board will feel comfortable enough with this draft at this point to go ahead and approve it, knowing it's going to be a work in progress. And that to kind of authorize me to continue to fill in the substance of it. And I'll switch over to the table.
Can you talk about, with Gary about an extension on that?
I don't know. It's up to the board.
Because we've only had this for a week, I'm not comfortable approving it.
Don't we have to have a second hearing?
This is the second.
Oh, this is
hearing.
a second.
We can do it on the September 9th. We have to get the application in before then, but if they know that it's before the select board, then that might be.
I feel that they've given us some time, and I think, given how long we've been a designated downtown, given the projects that are listed in your draft, I think.
Given you just found out about it too, they had to have this done, right?
Yeah, it took us a little by surprise.
Yeah, we knew that we were up for the renewal, but then just the complexities of
Well,
it, and the
this
fact
is
that
a
we
new
needed to do-
requirement.
That's right. We've done, 5-year plans before, but this is a much grander scale.
So even if we don't approve this, I kind of agree with Ian about see if we can get an extension, but can you say to them, look, this is the draft we have so far, we're working on it, hasn't been approved yet, but just so you know, we're not just like throwing it under the table and not doing what we're supposed to be doing.
And this doesn't commit us in any way to doing these things at these levels?
Correct.
Okay, because I do have a lot of questions about where we're planning to invest, because there are choices you have to make. And so where do you want to do it within the next 5 years? But as long as it's just, like you say here, it's a planning tool.
Yeah.
And so as long as it doesn't commit us, or we won't get locked into it and then just have to execute on that, then I feel comfortable.
Right, we want to confirm, because we don't know, because they're not asking for renewals anymore. there's obviously, and because there's now financial incentive that will hopefully continue, in the next few years at least. What are we beholden to when we present this capital plan? I think we want to find out.
Well, I don't know to what degree the downtown board will scrutinize the content of it. The application materials and the state statute refer to specific things they want to know are included, like investments in sidewalks and lighting.
Okay.
And that's in here. We can demonstrate that that's in here.
Okay.
And transportation facilities and some other things that support downtowns. And this document definitely shows that we've done that. And continue and have plans to continue to do more. So I think at the very least, that's going to satisfy their
Right.
concerns.
I guess it would be nice if they will give us the extension. It would be nice for us to like talk through this document and have it for our own use too. But if they won't, then obviously, we'll put in what we have in order to meet the deadline.
Right.
But it would be nice if it could do double duty,
Yeah.
for the designation, but also maybe as a planning document for us.
Yeah.
Because you put a lot of work into this so far, so it'd be nice if we could use it
Oh,
too.
I agree. And just to jump over, let's see here. As an example, this is the recreation section. And at the last meeting, we talked about the skate park. And we learned that the expectation is $600,000. So we can reflect that in this document and show that the intention is to achieve that through either grant funds or fundraising, but also show it here in the schedule for this column is 2026, 2027. And even if they are successful at getting grants and fundraising, it shows that the fund balance is still pretty healthy for the recreation facilities.
They don't have those funds. This is just a guess.
Correct.
Right. This is, like you said, a planning tool in hopes that they get.
Right. And this also assumes that the $140,000 in ARPA funding that they've received, that they've spent about $7,000 of it. This reflects that the remainder of the ARPA funding being put into that reserve fund. So that's what this reflects. And I think that's a logical thing to do. If it hasn't been done already, in terms of the actual transfer of those funds, I think that's where they should go. And so that's what this reflects. The other thing I want to hop back up to is capital roads. And we talked about this a little bit before. And this is the one reserve fund that is strained. And we have a lot of demands on that reserve fund. And I have attempted to list some of what we know. I don't know where all this FEMA stuff is coming out of for Briggs Hill. At the moment, obviously, we have to pay for it up front, but the expectation is we're going to get some form of reimbursement through FEMA and the state share. So right now, those are a question, but what we do know, we're about $150,000 in the hole in that reserve fund. And I'm going to reiterate my recommendation. It's just a recommendation. You don't have to make a final decision tonight, but that there's about $250,000 in ARPA funding. And that could be a solution to bridging that gap in all of these different capital projects. And by the way, just for the Lincoln Road riverbank project that where Lincoln Road will be closed, and Briggs Hill, the situation with Briggs Hill, the one lane, and having now installing the solar traffic lights at each end. So the total of that,
I see the
traffic control, about it's about
$11,000,
yeah, about
$12,000
almost $12,000 additional
Already.
that we hadn't really planned on.
already.
Yeah,
I see
that's
that.
committed.
I see those are.
That FEMA's not gonna reimburse us for.
No, apparently not. They consider that an increase in operating costs that they don't fund. It's not.
And then when something happens, if we don't have them, what happens? We're gonna sue the state.
Well,
No, the federal
Anyway.
government, that's FEMA.
much easier.
So all of
We'll
the
get
other,
somewhere there.
all of the other reserve funds look really good. I have not incorporated the water district, the Bristol West, Bristol East, and all that stuff in that schedule yet. I can show you down here, hang on to your seatbelts, and so there are placeholders for those here. So we'll fill that in, but it's again, those funds look, all the funds except for the capital roads are pretty healthy. And this shows, and it shows that we have a pretty solid plan going forward.
I appreciate all your hard work on that.
And
It's
so
a
you'll
lot-
ask
it's a lot
about
of
the
work.
extension and.
Well, I don't expect we'll get an extension. I mean, for this, for the application itself. This is just a piece of it. So we'll submit everything we've got, and we'll submit what we have with this and just explain that it's still being reviewed.
Work in progress.
So we can still, I mean, submit it and then
Yeah.
continue to add to it.
Yeah.
And then resubmit,
Yep.
resubmit.
Yep.
Okay, so what's your pleasure? Do we have to, don't have to vote on this or to get it in?
Well, we've had 2 hearings. So I guess I would, if you have a chance to look at the draft at some point between now and the next meeting, and if you have comments that I can work with, I'd be delighted to aim for the next meeting to have something and then take action at that time. Because you ordinarily, you
You're
don't.
gonna submit something by this.
Yeah.
Well, she can,
So just
they
submit
can
as
submit
is
the
without
application.
I'll submit, yeah. submit what we
That's
have.
what we got.
Yeah. Ordinarily, you typically don't vote on something during a public hearing. You close the public hearing and then you take your
Okay.
action. So we can close the public hearing. We've had it. We have a sense of what we want to try to accomplish. And we'll take it from there.
Okay, well, as long as it's a public hearing, I'll ask the public
Right.
that's here. Anybody have
Or
any,
on the
or on the
screen.
screen? Anybody got any comments on this? Sharon? Okay, anybody out there in TV land, Zoom? Got any comments on the capital, what we've been presented so far?
Well, thanks for your patience with it.
I would like to make a recommendation. I know we talked, the last time we talked about this, you were talking about just people emailing you suggestions. I do have, I think we should be more direct and put a deadline in terms of, for us, feedback from us, feedback from department heads, I think would be useful. And then also to the public as well, figuring out how to do that. So, at the moment, it's just the public's only seen it this week. I know that you sent it to the planning commission last week, so they've had it for about a week. But I don't think a week is enough time to do that.
So let's aim for the next meeting in September, then, the second one, the
Okay.
later one.
The last.
Yeah.
Yeah. so
And I-
it'll be
and I think we need
September
to-
23rd.
Make an effort, and I'm willing to help with this in terms of getting it out to the public. And I guess my concern is that you're the only person working on this, and so it's all coming from you.
Mhm.
And I know that you're distilling it from lots of different sources, but I want to have more people look at it,
No, I
because I
agree.
think it's hard for you. I
Mhm.
mean, it shouldn't have to be all of you doing it, right? You doing everything. And so I'd really like to sort of split that up, especially the comment section, because I'm sure, hopefully people will have comments and we'll do that. But I think adding a deadline to it where you're looking for feedback by this date and the feedback can come in this way or something like that, we'll make it as easy as possible.
Right, and in fact, the planning commission will be meeting on, let's see, the 17th.
Right, because they probably won't do any comments until their
Right.
meeting.
Right, and then the select board meeting would be on the 23rd. So,
Yeah, so I think if we're not beholden to the downtown designation deadline, we just present it as is. I can't imagine they're gonna look at it and say, oh, you're missing a few sections, I'm
Right.
sorry, I just don't see
or it
that
hasn't been
happening.
officially.
They're not.
Right, right.
My worry is that because it hasn't been officially adopted.
Right, I would, yeah, I mean, we can, Cora can work through that, Courtney, obviously you can speak to Gary, as well as you. And I think if we're not beholden to that deadline, then that gives us more time to sort of look at this and go through it.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, fantastic work.
Okay. So the public hearing will be over. Consider.
We skipped that one, I think.
Skip that one, yeah.
Number 5, consider adoption of the
Now we can skip
Yeah.
that, postpone,
Skip that.
postpone.
aim
We're skipping
to
6.
September 23rd
No.
goal.
No, 6 we're doing. 6
we're doing.
7 we're skipping.
Water commissioners consider adoption of updated water rate structure and other amendments to the Bristol Water Use Ordinance, Appendix B, Schedule of Rates and Charges. Want to brief us first?
So
Chris?
there are two parts to this. Chris provided a memo outlining a new structure, and I'll let Chris speak to that. And that will change how the water bills get calculated and the billing cycle somewhat. And then the other part of that, related but separate, we're proposing adding some adjustments to the Appendix B part of the water ordinance. That's the rates and schedules section. And so the rates would be with the one thing, but then the other stuff, we want to propose some adjustments in the other charges. But I'll let Chris go first, and I'll try to find his memo.
So in your memo, you mentioned you've created a spreadsheet that shows the rates. I don't see that on the website.
No.
Is that not shared?
I have, you want a hard copy?
I'm trying to find it. I got it
Do
from
you?
email for you.
It's my first meeting.
I love paper.
Yeah.
And then is this I know that when our previous treasurer was here, you were working with him. Is this a continuation of that discussion that he presented or
yes.
something different?
And no,
Okay.
it's continuation similar, but. like
So it's
slightly-
using some of the information that you found out,
Yeah,
okay, and then the
Just
next
finalize
stage
it,
is,
yeah.
okay.
I mean, long and short of it, as I said in the memo, the two biggest changes would be, currently we deal with our rate structure on a day-to-day, number of days.
Right.
It's hard to calculate. The formula is absolutely crazy. Anyone ever asked how much their water bill might be for an estimate? Can't give them one. Is it, again, it could be, a read could be, if you, some of the residential minimums for the minimum, users last year, 1 week it was 80, one quarter was $83, and another quarter was 74. There's that much, and the usage was identical. Basically, so it's those days and all that crap. So what this does is it boils it down to a very simple concept, is you create a base rate for every what I call a billable unit. You've probably heard the term ERU, equivalent residential unit.
Yeah.
It's a terrible term, especially when you're dealing with residential. But we get into it further. At the very top of the spreadsheet, you'll see that the non-residential and residential, we broke this out into two very distinct pieces, basically houses and not houses. We set a flat rate of $180 a year for residential and $360 for non-res, and then a simple rate of $5.50 for every 1,000 gallons of water you utilize. It's that simple.
Okay.
I don't want to make it sound super simple. In the memo, I gave you some examples of, and that's from this table. The examples you see on the families, on the residential, which is the blue part of this graph, all of these are real numbers from last year, by the way. I can tell you that the first one is me. I ran my own water bill. It's my wife and myself, and we're gonna see an increase of about $3.40 a quarter. My neighbors next door have kids, it's a family of 4, theirs is actually gonna drop. Where you start seeing it pick up is any place that has more than one residential unit, one dwelling unit. So you have a house with an accessory dwelling unit built into it, so now you have 2 living quarters. This particular one's gonna see an increase of about $25. That's a family of 4 living in the primary house and a single person living in the accessory dwelling unit. 4-unit apartment, it goes up because every unit is gonna be charged the $45 a unit. So I've talked to a couple different landlords, actually. They've already prepped their tenants. Rents are going up this year. They know taxes are going up. They know water's going up. They know power's going up. This is not a shock to them that this is yet another increase in their potential business.
Where did the $45 a unit come from, Chris? I'm not.
I ran them out.
Oh, okay.
Because if you take the annual and you divide it by 4, so the one
The 180, divide that by 4 is $45 a quarter, and $90 a quarter for non-residential units. The non-residential units are the ones that are a little more complicated on doing the math, but I tried to explain it out. The state of Vermont provided some documentation on how to calculate. So you're comparing apples to oranges when you're dealing with your business. Here's a bunch, whoops, actually, if you want to pop over to the non-residential tab here real quick. These are what people's usages were last year, just if you want to see for the non-residential. I went through each one of them. The second to last column is the total usage in actual, the first ones are in single numbers, but that's actually 29,000 gallons or 4,000 gallons for the first line. So it's 33,000 gallons and so forth. You take that number and you divide it by 76,650 gallons. That's the state recommendation, and that creates the ERUs, equivalent residential units. Again, I want to change it to just billing units, so it's all the same terminology, whoever we're talking with. So what it does is it captures the larger users and creates an equal playing field across. And you look at like Mount Abe, which is one of our largest water users. Last year they used 668,000 gallons of water. They're equivalent to 8 3/4 homes. If you take a small business, I'm just looking at one, trying to find one right off the top of my head here that I see that would be quick. Alberton Hardware, the hardware store, they use very little water. They use like 11,000 gallons a quarter. So what it shakes out to be is that they're only one resident ERU. So that's how that sort of evens the playing field. So everyone has a base rate. Like I said, residential would be a base rate of $45, non-residential is $90, and then you pay 0.55 cents a gallon. I'm not expecting you guys to set this tonight, as I said in my note. There's a lot of work left to be done on this.
So the base rate, $45 per quarter?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I do, quick question. Are apartments you have, apartments, families with ADUs, you're considering them residential, not commercial, just because they're houses?
Correct. As a matter of fact, the recommendation, or the same policies that I used to get the commercial, the state recommends dwelling, and I think the terminology was in the memo that they used. I thought I cut and pasted it out, I'm not gonna lie. I got it. Yeah, their verbiage was residential users, for each individual living unit served by the water system. Examples are a duplex is 2 units, a house with 2 apartments is 3 units, an apartment building with 10 apartments is 10 units. So I felt that was a fair assessment. And what we're really trying to do is it captures out water usage and what it's being used for. That's the important one for me.
Okay. So let me just, I've read your memo, so I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. So the quarterly charge is gonna be the same. Every month it's gonna be the same for everybody. So they're gonna.
Same base rate.
Right, same base rate. They're gonna be able to plan on that. The fee per 1,000 gallon, that's gonna be the number that will change. So you're still not gonna have a definitive number that you can guarantee every month.
But we can give them a historic background. I mean, if you look at the commercial users are all over the place. They were hard, but if I looked at residential, it was within 1,000 to 2,000 gallons every quarter.
And that shouldn't change for the most part unless like they add on an apartment or they add something on.
Add some bodies.
Right.
I mean, if I sell my house to a family of 4, that water usage is gonna go up.
Right.
So.
Or they add a pool, a hot tub, and
Yeah.
fill it all the time.
Yeah, I mean, or you've got the neighbor who it washes their car or waters their lawn. Those are big users.
Yep.
Okay. And then the $45 is what we talked about with, if you've got a vacant lot with a curb stop on it, you're paying 45.
That part's up to you all. I didn't go into that. I didn't count that into this. This is.
Because if they're a curb stop, they just, okay, I want my water turned on now. I want to finish out, build my house or not.
That
Yeah.
I haven't gotten
That's
into, I haven't got, that's
up-
policy, that's policy side, I haven't
We
gotten
had
into
we had discussed that before, and I think we were all in
We're leaning,
agreement to have
leaning
that.
that one.
Yeah.
that. So all it is once their account is
But we have to
created,
change our
that, they'll
policies.
get charged the $45 minimum toll, that's how that would work, so however.
Well, I thought that was once you apply for a curb stop, then that's an account.
Well, that's where we have to get into the.
Hooked up with a
policy.
meter, there's no way to put it in there,
Oh, okay.
because it has to be associated with a
You
meter.
had, need to meet numbers, the problem.
Yeah.
Right, I mean, the whole idea of this, in this whole discussion is equity.
Right.
At the moment, our water system isn't equitable because of the way it was set up many years ago, and we're working to correct that.
Yeah, one of the biggest pieces too that I didn't put on here, you've got low water users. They're gonna see a decrease in their bills, and there's a lot of them. I mean, when I looked at the residential numbers, you've got a lot of single people living in single homes. The other piece that we get is every year we get a handful of calls in the late fall, early winter to turn water off at people's homes that are the winter. Well, it's still $45.
Right.
That fee doesn't change, but then their usage goes to zero for that quarter. So they know that while they're in Florida, it's $45 because that $45 is working on the base number we need to be able to maintain our system.
Right.
So.
Do we charge to shut them off?
No, they, at the moment,
Oh, we
when
did.
they,
But it should be a service charge.
It's.
Oh,
It should be a
yeah.
service charge.
Yeah.
There's I think.
You're
there-
working on that in the
I think that's in
proposed.
the.
yeah, it's on the next
proposed-
one.
In the new
Okay.
rules, there was a talk about shut up, so.
Mm.
Yeah, it's, if they choose to turn their water off, they turn their water off, but they won't be using any during that. The other piece that this will do too is if, it would be super obvious to somebody, if there's a change in their water bill, what, they're gonna ask why. If you go from a $90 water bill, $90, all of a sudden $120, what's going on? Whether it's us seeing it, which I doubt we will, trying to watch 600 plus accounts is virtually impossible. But if the end user calls in, it's like, why is my water bill so high? It's like, I don't know, let's find out. Do you have a leak? So we
still-
consistency.
So for that though, don't we still have that 4-month time period?
3 months, yeah.
3 months, sorry.
It's
Where
still-
we have, it's somewhere in there. We can't do it like
Not
someone
yet.
comes in 2 days later and realizes.
Yeah, that's further down the road as
Right,
far as.
which is a meter change,
Right.
right? The way we monitor.
Meter or essentially, yeah, there's a handful of options that are out there.
Right,
Yes.
okay. But within 3 months, if there is a change, and we've had people come to us
Yeah.
and have those issues, okay.
Yeah, you wanna hope it happens in the last week and
Right.
not the first week.
Yeah. And again, especially if you've had a very consistent water bill, like our water bill isn't consistent right now. Again, when I had a $75 water bill, when they went to, a $73 water bill, and then went to an $89 water bill. There was no change, it was less billing days.
Right.
So what caused it? I didn't know. I hoped for the best. I didn't check my toilets and did all that stuff, but there was nothing major, but now.
It's just because of our current calculation.
Yeah, and here's gonna have a little bit of fluctuation, whether it's a 80-day read or 90 days between reads or 95 day, it's irrelevant. It's a billing cycle, it's a billing period. Because you're being billed on your usage. At the end of the year, it's all a wash. We aren't doing overages, we don't deal with any of that.
Right.
And
It's all what you use.
it's all about what we use.
Yeah.
So here's a question, as we go through these next phases of the Bristol West and Bristol East and the rest and other things, capital investments, and we're gonna have more debt and other expenses to cover in the operating budget, what calibration gets adjusted?
Traditionally, it would be your base unit, your
Base rate.
the base rate. Because that's really what's
Still stay
covering.
at 45 a billing cycle.
No,
No,
your
that's-
base rate.
that changes.
That's gonna have to increase, because that's what you need to maintain your
So
system. It's
which
usually
cell is the base rate?
G.
G is the base rate. So if that's the residential base rate.
non-res.
Or non-res, okay.
I have it backwards. I don't know how it ended up that way, but it did. I noticed it.
So residential's right below it.
All right,
180.
got it.
Yeah.
So I
So,
believe if you change that number,
yeah,
it's gonna change that table below. I think
well, that's my question.
you
So
move
if we
them.
change it, say, even just $1, So
Yeah.
we
It
can
all
see,
changed.
yeah, and we can calculate then how that's going to play out for each of those
And same with
scenarios.
if you decided
Yeah.
that maybe it made more sense to change the rate for whatever reason, you can, the rate per gallon, you could also play with that number. And it calculates it all through for us, so.
Yeah, your family too went from, you changed that $1, right?
Yeah,
That went,
no, she changed it to two.
So I'll go back, I'll put in $1 there.
see, that went about 40 cents,
Mhm.
went up 25 cents
Yeah, because it's 4 quarters.
for 4 quarters.
So-
Pretty simple, huh?
So it's,
Okay.
so what I'd like to know is if you're comfortable going down this road, in all reality, I'd like to see this implemented for our December billing cycle. That would be, there's no way it's happening in 2 weeks.
No.
With the public outreach to try to explain this, I still want to try to take the memo I sent out and try to soften it even more. It can't be full of technical jargon. People will just gloss over and then just get their bill and be mad.
They'll just gloss over anyway.
I like to
Your
see-
water bill's going up unless you don't use much water.
Well, it literally,
Choose.
yeah, I mean, it is almost that the headline has to almost be a punch in the face, but the verbiage below it can be gentle or easy to understand. I just.
Right.
So that could go out in 2 weeks with the bill, a letter that says, expect an increase in December, end of the year.
Well, they may not get an increase, some may get a decrease.
You're gonna see
Our new rates will be.
You're gonna see it, and give the examples that I've given here, and actually I could generate one off of very low water, a single resident home. They
Yeah.
will see an actual decrease, not that I wanna promote, they were gonna see decreases, but some people are truly gonna see it.
Mhm.
Some people are gonna see an increase, I mean, you've got,
All right.
But
I
it
mean,
will
where
help
there's
them,
gonna be, there's always gonna be an increase somewhere.
but it will help them understand it, like
Why
to
it's
say
happening.
which category. do I
It'll be
fit into.
better to budget and plan.
And I really think as you say, the apartment people who gotta know, okay, in December, you're gonna see an increase. So they can let their tenants know, we're expecting rent.
yeah, I mean,
Possible.
and one of the 2 landlords I spoke to, I expected it, like, a chair to be thrown at me, and they were like, yeah, that's such is life, this is, I need to raise my rents, I haven't done it in a while, and this is one of
I'm
the.
just gonna pass it on.
Yeah, we have
Well,
to.
It's unfortunate, but it's just,
So,
there's not much we can do.
yeah,
Mhm.
I won't say pleasantly surprised, yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, I thought it was gonna be ugly. So, if you all are good with me continuing down this road, I would gladly finish putting this together, because like I said, we have to put together that, I need to speak with Nemrick to find out what we need to do to change the rate structure, and the other piece is, we actually have to go in and touch every account and classify whether it's residential or non-residential, we don't classify that anywheres.
Okay.
Anywheres.
And that will help out or will that help out with what we ran into, why we didn't get any money or much money for Pine Street, because remember, we were off on
ERUs.
ERUs, because they were trying to still do bedroom count stuff. I mean,
Right, will this help?
yeah, I mean, because you're up to 969 ERUs over, I don't remember what the last previous numbers were now.
Well, we don't really know, to be honest with you, how
Yeah.
that's going to affect, because they had calculated us at 695 ERUs. And Jill might have an opinion on that.
I do. I put your numbers into their spreadsheet because they gave us the spreadsheet.
Oh,
They
yeah.
have us at 695 ERUs, which we don't want to touch because that's the divisor. Whatever our debt number is gets divided by that. So like our budget for the year and our debt number gets divided by that. And what they're saying is, okay, if there's 695 ERUs, which is their number, and we're going to leave it alone, whatever our number is, until that number is above 2% of the median household income, which is like $685. So until the debt of the water system or the equivalent cost of a year's worth of water for a ERU, so until the number on the top divided by 695 is above $682, we're not getting a penny a grant. That's
So how does this,
how it
if
works.
we have, if looking at the spreadsheet that Chris has put together, we have a total of 969.
We don't
What
want
is
to offer that number to them.
Yeah.
That Well, makes we the don't have a choice. advisor, if we're gonna change the way we're billing, that's what they're gonna
Yeah.
see.
No,
there's
they have
only-
nothing to do with our billing. They have a number of equivalent residential units that they've assigned to our water system.
So why would that change? I mean, that's not gonna change
Not gonna
unless we say something to them, right?
So it's correct. Our billing structure is billing. How
Okay.
they determine what we have for their definition of ERUs under the water supply rule and under their the drinking water revolving loan fund, that's their number. And we're gonna leave their number alone because if the divisor gets bigger, the ability to get grants gets further and further away for us. So we just have to do the math and say, okay, how much debt, how much does each, basically until there's the equivalent of 695 times 682. So 695 times 682, $473,990 is what the water budget needs to be that year for us to get a grant.
Our water
We gotta
budget
go up
plus
$100,000.
with
So
our
right
debt,
now, we're
with our
at like,
debt load, debt payment in there also.
Right.
but that's
not
what I'm
just the
talking
budget.
about, the debt payment. So until we have another $100,000 worth of debt payment, so if 726 costs us 34, let's see, 726 costs us 34, 100 divided by 34 is 2.94. We need to spend at least 2.94 times 726. Which means we need to spend at least 2.2 million to even be eligible for a penny a grant.
All right,
That's
we're gonna-
695.
So with that, so the 695, how do we know that that won't change in the next 5 or 6 years as we do these projects?
Well, it'll change some as they do subdivisions and that, they'll add those.
Yeah, they might choose to add in like the 5 new houses over off of Plank Road or 6 new connections.
5 on Joel's.
Yeah, fine.
They
So,
might-
but it's not gonna jump to suddenly what we've decided to do for the way that we calculate for our billing. We hope.
No, I don't believe it will because
Unless they watch this meeting.
I'm just
Don't think they
saying.
care about us.
I'm just saying, like they bumped us from
Yeah.
120 or 630 to 695 when we took on Woodland Apartments and
Right.
ATP. So they added 45 and 40, like
45.
They added 45 and like another 25. They added like 65. So they took away our ability to get grant. 65 times $680. So they basically said, oh, your water system now has to spend another $44,200 a year in order to get the grant money.
Makes perfect sense.
Okay.
So basically, until our water budget, which means all of the expenses and all of the loan payments, the bond payments exceed like 444,000, we're not getting a penny of grant money. So if we're able to get 50%, so it almost means we almost need to have like a $4.2 million project to get a 50% grant.
Past that like nothing, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I guarantee them that we're gonna get 50% like we did the last 2 times.
Thanks, Jill.
Okay, well, that's the math.
So,
ready.
Chris, so what are we, in terms of the utility billing module, are we already using that for water?
Yeah, we are.
Okay, so what are the new things that you would do? Well, it seems like in your memorandum, you're also talking about NEMRIC, the complexity of what we currently have.
Yeah.
It gets much simpler with this. Can someone come in, let's say I wanted to come in, I read this memo.
Yep.
I'm concerned, I wonder what my water is gonna be. Can I come in and have you calculate it? Do I have the tools that I can look online to see?
We don't have it online.
Okay, I could look at past water bills.
You could call and I can give you your average number. like
Oh,
that.
okay.
I mean,
So you can, because it's in NEMRIC, you can pull from that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's where all this data came from that I
Okay.
used for
Right.
usages. So it's a quick, easy report. I can either do it
Okay.
individual or groups or large.
Right, or a business, a
Yeah.
property owner or whatever.
Anyone who has a meter, I can tell how much, we can tell you how much water went through that meter last year.
Okay, And then if
They
they
suppose that
wanna
will-
know with this new system, you could calculate what their costs might be, because you know people are gonna want to know.
Oh, absolutely, I'm
Okay.
expecting that one.
Okay. And then, and it's a good, like you said, in terms of at your end of your memo, in terms of getting the information out there, and I think you're right, I think it needs to be even more simplified just with the details. I mean, this is good. But at the same time, it allows us an opportunity, hopefully, to talk about the upcoming projects and how the cost per billing unit will change. I mean, we know it's inevitable, it's gonna go up by whatever percentage, but we don't know, we have some idea. But I think it is an opportunity now for us to sort of talk about that.
Yeah.
Like,
So-
we're setting up this new system, we've got these new billing units, and at the same time.
Yeah, and adjusting your billing units is the easier one to explain to the end user.
Right.
Because if you go from $45 to $50, if you tell everyone across the board, your water bill is going up $5, everyone understands that.
Right.
If we tell them it's going up another tenth of a penny per
Right.
gallon, they glaze over.
Right.
So, or if we say we're gonna charge $5.51 a gallon, this still doesn't, it's not a realistic number. If someone's going up $5 no matter what, they're like, oh.
Right, and we can, I mean, with this system too, we can calculate, given what we know in terms of what the project costs will be for the next 2 phases, we could potentially calculate what that
Estimated.
cost, an estimated billing unit might be, maybe at the end of the project, maybe at the end of phase 2, something like that.
So where you would adjust your gallon price typically is if you saw a drop in usage. If also you had, whether it's a large user, let's say the school all of a sudden puts in a huge water saving mechanism.
Yeah.
And we saw a huge drop in usage, that's where you would adjust that. When you see a lower flow, you adjust your flow rate.
Yeah, per
to the-
gallon.
per gallon.
Per gallon.
But when you see overhead costs, you typically change the
Okay.
unit cost, if that makes it, if that.
Yeah.
So everybody's paying for
Everyone has to pay for that.
And our rate per gallon, like you said, that could change a little bit, but probably our initial cost per billing unit, that's the one that's probably will change more than our other costs. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay.
What does the select board / water commission need to see next to take action, to actually vote to adopt something like this? Or unless you're ready now.
Yeah, either way.
What's your pleasure, people?
I mean, is there any reason you're gonna think that the numbers need to change,
No.
like from 45 to 50, or no, you think the 45 is?
I mean,
okay?
again, I look at it, if you look at the totals, we have calculated, these are estimated off last year's numbers. $373,000 of revenue coming in, plus $11,000 from Woodland. It wasn't calculated in this because they're on their own special rate thing.
Right.
It shakes out to 384, which is what you need for budget numbers. So I'm giving you a fair.
But that doesn't mean it won't change next year. once
It
you
will
do
change
budgets,
next year
right.
because the bond will be.
Bond.
Yeah, and we'll have to
Okay.
adjust it.
Mhm.
And we're gonna have to adjust it no matter what. The rates are
Right.
going up this year no matter what, and in all reality,
They're gonna go.
now's a chance for us to fix, in my mind, a very broken system.
Yeah.
I just worry about and I see where you're getting the units here. I mean, if you have an apartment in your garage, then that's 2 units or what? And right now, the state doesn't recognize, like, one water line going to that property is one.
Yeah, but that doesn't affect, they don't look at this. The state doesn't look at it.
Shoot.
The only way that they
think they're
might,
gonna.
with our loan applications, if I recall correctly, they do have some questions about our local number of whatever's, I have to look back at that, but the loan applications might.
Well, I understand that, but if their definition is 1 unit per 1 water line, then.
The state water revolving loan, I could never get the name right, whatever that group is, where they came up with the 76,650 gallons per unit. They are also the ones that said 1 dwelling unit is one, they don't care if it's 1 meter with 5 dwelling units. A dwelling unit is a unit. So a single family home single family with an apartment's 2, a duplex is 2, a 4-unit apartment is 4. And that's their verbiage right out of their documentation.
It makes sense to me.
Okay,
So what next though? I mean,
yeah.
is,
We wanna
or is-
implement these rate for December, or, right, is that what you're gonna ask, Valerie? I'm
well,
sorry.
I don't want to just leave it as a limbo.
Right.
And not knowing what to do or how to bring it back to finalize it.
I think if you give us the next 2 weeks to sort of look over it, are you able to share that document with
Yeah,
us?
I'll
the
email
full-
that
the
tomorrow
full
too.
thing? And then we can all sort of look through, and if we have questions or comments, and I think also for the next meeting, maybe present, if you're able to, just what you think in terms of the plan, in terms of getting this out to people and how.
Maybe,
Absolutely.
what
maybe a
that might
draft
be.
memo or a draft
Mhm.
outreach
Right.
document.
He's already
I
got the memo
would
started. so.
Go just a little bit further, because it's easy math. What do we figure the bond payment would be on the next section of the water?
Depends on what kind of subsidy.
So if they give us,
Let's
say
say
they give
it's
us 50%, and it's, what are we looking at, 2 million, 2.5 million?
No, Steve would know, right? Jill, do you know if you're still there?
I think we have, hold on. Is it, I wonder if it's 2 miles left to do on the west side. So say it's like $1 million a mile, probably about 4 million. So if we got
50%.
2
if
million.
we got
so 2
50%,
million.
I don't think we'll get quite 50% because I don't think the debt will be high enough for an entire 50. I have a feeling we'll get like 40 or 25%. So we'll probably end up with about $3 million worth of loan.
So
So
$3
$3
million.
million. Yeah, $3 million at 2%. Let me see if I've got.
For 30 years?
That was what we were offered this time, was 2%, 30 years.
Yeah.
So what would the annual payment be? Can you? just a
Basically,
rough-
it's gonna be 34 times 4. 34 times like 4.3. I just don't know where it went. There it is. 34 times 4.3. Ow, owie. Like 146.
126?
Like 146.
So.
Like we're saying 146,000?
146,000, that is, so at 1,000 users, you'd have to go up $14 on your base rate to cover that.
So 726 divided by.
So we'd go, to cover that, when we took that loan, we'd go to
45, they go to
$60.
$60.
Yeah, we'd go to $60 for your base rate.
I can run those numbers and get you a hard, because
Yeah.
it is gonna fluctuate a little bit because you're non-residential are paying more per unit, but,
Mhm.
so you're pretty
Yeah.
close. I bet you're
Yeah.
talking at least a
Okay.
$10.
And then what's phase 3, the final
Same.
phase? Okay,
It's actually, so phase 3 is gonna be a similar, like 2 to 2.5 miles. It's the phase 4, which is the,
Rockydale.
yeah, Rockydale is the real, the humdinger.
which we don't really have a decision on yet, like what we want to do with that.
Whether we
No.
wanna drill them
What we
wells or.
can do with it.
Right.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
I mean, at the end of this, at the end of the 5 years, 6 year, the potential, instead of being 45, it might be 70 or 80.
Yeah,
So just
it'll probably be about double. I've kind of thought that the entire time.
A quarter?
Quarter.
Oh, yes.
70 a quarter plus
Yeah.
your usage.
Just so you know,
Yeah.
also at the same time, look at water rates across the state. We
Right,
have,
yeah.
just talking with my brother who does this work all over, we have, other than South Burlington, some of the cheapest water in the state, and he has no idea how South Burlington does it, but we have cheap water. Do you agree, Jill, that we have super cheap water in Bristol?
Oh my God, yes. I have water systems that pay over $100 a month.
So,
I sent you guys.
Well, I'm
that.
just.
Which is
I'm curious.
$300,
So-
which is
so where I'm
$300 a
going with
quarter.
this Is do we wanna soften that $10 and have a little
Put this
bit
up to
ahead?
50.
Put this at 50
Oh, I see.
now,
Mhm.
and have a
Right.
put that in the capital, the excess.
the access into capital reserve. I mean,
That's
it's
just.
not a bad,
no,
it's
I
not a
mean-
bad concept.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at this right now,
Right.
and I have a family of 4, 2 girls living at home, and we're about $85 a month.
Mhm.
We won't be up to the 133. We're a little bit more than that $80 dollars for two.
I mean, so a family of two, you're gonna go up $20,
Yeah.
$25
A quarter
total.
Total.
over the year.
It's $3.40
If we went,
right
if we
now.
went to 50.
That seems reasonable.
Right.
I mean, it avoids, we'll have a little money ahead, and instead of being a $15 increase, we know that it would be roughly 10, and it would probably be less than that,
Now.
because we'd have.
He's asking if
G3,
you could change
change
something.
G3 to, how much were you thinking, instead of 45, do 50 right now, just
Yeah.
for,
Right.
just change that to 200. Yeah, I mean.
So $8.
Is that $8.39?
Yeah,
It's gone up $20 for the year.
$33. I mean, the second to last column is your annual increase.
You see the family of four is going,
Is
Down.
breaking even. I mean, it's already going down now, that finally they're catching up when you get at 50.
Right. Mhm.
I hear bigger, we go to 50. Right, that would be $8.40 a quarter more than $3.39 a quarter. So it's going up $5 or $20 a year.
I
For
don't
restaurants, it
think,
was
I
60.
was gonna say, none of my numbers moved on the non-residential.
No, because she didn't change that.
Oh,
So that has to go up.
Yeah.
to 400.
Yeah.
So again, they're seeing an increase, but it's
It's not that big of an increase.
It really
though,
is.
I mean, you see the high school's gone.
I mean,
up
it's less than a buck a day.
$153.
To
They
put
have
it,
a lot of usage.
I mean, the restaurant example there, and it's a buck a day
Yeah.
and a quarter.
So we're only, before you said we met was it?
So now you're gonna be up to $406,000.
We're gonna have $10,000.
In capital.
About 20,000, you'll have about 20,000 excess.
And also, the connection fees go into the capital fund now. And the operating budget includes an allocation to the capital fund.
And when is that, 07?
What's that?
Next
phase?
The bond will be due,
26, I thought it was.
but we won't bond until 07.
Maybe
27.
till 27.
We'll
Yeah,
start
27,
paying.
It's
yeah.
like, oh, 7 what?
27, you mean paying.
I was around in 07.
Actually, it's a 2-year project. You don't start paying your bond until a year after the end of construction. So you'd be in construction 26 and 27, and you'd start paying it in 28. Just so you know, it is deferred till a year after.
So we'd
You
have
can
about
slowly
60
build that up.
grand, yeah.
I mean, and in all reality, if you raise it to this now, we start here, people are gonna see an increase, it is what it is. And then even next year, you wanted to add another $5 to
Yeah,
that.
that's what I was thinking.
Dude, yeah.
Where
So we get to that
$5
point.
a year isn't that much of
Right.
a.
$5
I
a
like the
quarter.
softer.
A quarter,
numbers,
yeah.
yeah.
$5 a quarter.
No, $5 a year, if you change that to, or if you wanted to do $20,
Oh, no, you said from 45, it's a quarter.
yeah.
So we changed to 50 and next year to
you-
55.
I was thinking, yeah.
It's
you're right,
$20.
$20.
I don't think it's,
320.
Change it to 320.
And then the upper one would be 640, because it's double. That puts you at $535,000.
You know what that does? That gets you grant money. You divide that by 695. That 535, 412, 92, you divide that by 695. And once that gets over 2% of your median household income, you start getting grants.
But we only have to be at that at the time we get the grant or apply for the grant. So
At
like,
the time they approve your loan.
so.
Which
if
is
we-
at the end of the
and-
project, or do they approve it ahead of time?
That's
They're
what I was gonna
supposed to
ask.
approve it ahead of time. The approve it after is awful.
if we raise
Yeah, we
this,
found that out.
So would it be 26 and 27 that we would be applying for that loan?
You'd be applying for it in
20 after the bond.
20, early 26, because you,
Early 25, we submit the application, because it
yeah,
takes
because you
forever.
want to go
Yeah.
out to bid. You want to go
Yeah.
out to bid the fall of 25, and you want to be in construction the spring of 26, so 25, it's next year.
So the bond vote though wouldn't happen until
I'd like
the
to see
fall
it
or
moved.
spring.
November of this year.
November,
Yeah.
November when?
This
I
year.
mean,
So
yeah,
in
push the
September, we're
budget
gonna be talking about bond from Bristol West.
Yeah, you almost need to push it. I mean, I'm looking at the increase in what you just talked about again, if I'm out of line on this, but that's a $10 increase per quarter to get to that $500,000. Over a 2-year span, that's a little palatable. In a one shot.
And part of it is explaining to the public. I mean, it's a project that has to be done. We have no other choice. And it has to be paid for. And it's a multi-million-dollar project. And I think if people are aware of that, especially right now, which is why I sort of want to see these numbers. I mean, and this is obviously with our 50% or potentially 25, or I know, that's the thing. So this is like best
case scenario.
So-
right, that we
Peter-
get forgiveness.
Pickers brought up that we increased that 45 to 50, and I agree with him this year. And then at this time next year, we reexamine it and maybe the base rate go up again $5.
And maybe it's something that it's just,
Whoa.
Oh, he's rolling back now.
Yeah, well, you went way too much.
I think she was getting into 26 or something.
No, we were at 200 and we went to 320.
No, I think we meant to go to 220.
No, this is with both phase 2 and phase 3.
Oh, I see. That's the extra 30.
And that still doesn't cover phase 4.
Right.
Gotcha.
Which we're not gonna.
Yeah, I was just curious, like,
So
these are very rough estimates of what the project might cost with forgiveness.
I'm like, wait a minute.
Yes, this is putting really high numbers.
Because everyone's increase is about tenfold at that point.
Yeah, because I was looking at the quarter and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
So, but if you were to put it up $10 now at 55, is that better and then do another
Right.
$10 and
That's what I'm.
2 years or 1 year?
a year?
Or $5 and $5.
I don't know,
Let's
I'm
see
just
what
trying to
$10
think.
does, Valerie. I don't know what the number.
3.
Where do I do
So in the residential, so
it? Change it to.
220 was
55,
220?
220 is 550.
55.
I mean, 55, sorry. And then it would be 440 above that. I put you 4 and a
427.
quarter.
You guys would wanna update your budget, because when you apply for your loan, if you update your budget, if your budget income and your budget expense are equal, and it shows that you're putting more to capital, you're getting closer and closer to getting eligible for grants. Supposedly.
So it benefits us to put it up.
It
now.
was, I'm sensitive to all the bills that people are getting increased this year and not, being sensitive to what that looks like.
So that would be
$15
that's
a quarter.
$20 a year, right?
That's what that increase.
Right, that would be $20 a year for people.
30.
$30 a year.
I see 40 there.
How did I
The
get
family of 2 is 1339.
Yeah.
And it was
Per
3
quarter.
per quarter, and it was 339. So going up $10 a
And,
quarter or $40.
I'm not giving you.
Let's make that.
The wrong number where?
Yeah, I think that's right, 220.
No, 220 is right.
Okay, I just want to make sure I math that right.
4 times 5 is 20.
Yeah, I'm just making sure. Staring at a lot of numbers.
I think for the next meeting, I think we should look through this and, like you said, maybe run some figures with the ones that we've been talking about tonight.
Yeah, the only other thing I want to say on this is just by doing the $10 raise that you're talking about. I know that people lose their minds at the front desk when you raise it $2. You raise it 15, one of y'all have to be at the counter to explain it. Because it's gonna be ugly.
I mean, part of it is explaining it now too, like having this discussion, but I know that doesn't,
It'll soften it, but it's still not.
right, for those who read the minutes and.
But a family of 4, it's only an increase of $20 a year.
Well, that happened to be their random usage. Again, I can get you,
Right.
I'll run another family of 4 that I know and get you.
Mine.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I just chose, I happen to know that they have 2 young kids. That typically they consume water.
So
I mean, part of this too.
I mean,
Not as much
it's
as
pay me now or pay me later.
Mhm.
I mean, it's, to me, the blow is easier, a little easier now than giving them 10 or whatever we
5 and
decide
5.
on, than 30, 3 years from now.
Right.
Another consideration is the more money that's going into the capital fund.
The less we have to bond.
That, right, because that money is available to reduce the amount we have to borrow. We actually
Right.
use that money toward these projects.
And then we save the interest.
Exactly.
So.
Do we have anything going off in the next, we looked at that. We don't have anything going off.
The reservoir,
Any bonds?
the reservoir,
The one already went off, and that money was
North
in the
Street went
capital.
off, North
the
and
capital
Plank went
fund.
off. The
And
next
for
one
another
is,
10, 20, or 10 or.
the
more
reservoir, I
years.
think is 2033, the last number I remember.
Yeah.
That was like a 50-year bond.
Okay, we're beating the
Beating-
city up.
Yeah.
So we want to leave it, we approved the rate schedule, but we don't know whether or not yet. That's the
Don't do
question. We want to keep $10 or $5 this year, increase in
I
that.
think, I think,
Again, I can run a bunch of scenarios. I'll bring it in
Yeah.
at your next meeting. I can give you an updated table with the different rates, and that way you can have a very.
Yeah.
And I'll send out the spreadsheet so y'all can play with it at home
Yeah,
if you
that'd
want
be
to
great.
as well.
and we also have with an opportunity with this, we could work with the energy committee in terms of water savings. I mean.
We don't want them to save too much.
No, but I know, but I mean, part of it is if people are concerned about this, there are ways that you can do that. And so I think working with a committee that we have established at the town level to be able to help people, and they've done that in the past, but I think with this particular project, we know this is coming, it's gonna be for the next 5 or 6 years. To be able to work with residents, to be able to help, lessen their bills, I think would be a
Well, and
very,
if we
very
do,
positive thing.
if we do get rid of, if we do in fact reduce the amount of water we're pumping, it's gonna change all our numbers.
Right, reduce operating costs,
Right.
chlorination and energy.
But I mean, hopefully the repairs do that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But we won't know until.
It's done.
You won't know until you know.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you,
All
Chris.
right,
Thank you,
thanks,
Chris.
Chris.
I'm on the task. I got it.
Thank you.
Okay. Number 8, preparation.
Well, the other part of it, I'm
Right.
trying to find,
Whoops,
So you've
extension
got
of
the rates and charges
right. so
changes,
hang
which
on here.
look pretty minimal.
Yeah.
It generally is, and I'm glad Jill is on here, because I have a question. So here, let's see. So here, this statement reflects what we talked about earlier, where people that disconnect their water or turn their water off and go leave town for 6 months, they're still gonna pay a monthly fee. Or
Yeah.
a quarterly charge, no matter what, a base rate, just because for the privilege of remaining connected to the water system.
They pay the
Yes.
cable bill.
Yeah,
And
and
phone
preserve
bill.
their,
They'll turn the TV on for 6 months. or 5
exactly,
months.
exactly the same thing.
Yep.
So here's where some of the other adjustments are. That we're proposing changing the connection fee. Right now, it's $500 plus whatever the actual cost of the meter is and the operator's time to install it, witness it, and all the other business. The actual billing of that has been inconsistent over the years. But this way, by making a flat fee, connection fee for a 3/4 inch connect meter, $1,850 and $2,150 for a 1 inch residential meter. That would include the permission to connect to the water system, the cost of the apparatus, the equipment, 4 hours of operator time, and the meter. In this particular group of bullets, I wasn't sure if there was a distinction between the operator time to witness a corporation.
I was just gonna
tap.
ask that.
I know, because I'm not sure, because these notes came from our conversation, so I wanted to clarify with Jill, what 4 hours is included. It doesn't matter. Is it just 4 hours no matter what for the installation of the meter, the witnessing? But then there's also the tap to the distribution line. And right now in this particular thing, those two are separated.
Yeah, so usually they don't happen at the same time. So what ends up happening is a person will do a water tap. And at that time, they may or may not even have a house built. right? Maybe their house is being built. And
Right.
maybe, maybe they're planning on building 5 houses, right? And there's now a tap or several taps to the water system. And then once the houses are built and they're ready for water, meaning that they're heated, or that there's a space where the water service isn't going to be frozen and there's an actual water connection, like there's a water line coming into the house or the building, and there's a water line coming down inside the building that can have live water. At that time, they get a meter. So it's basically between witnessing the corporation, which is the actual connection and tapping to the water system, and building the meter set, installing the meter set, etc., and making sure that everything is good to go. That can be like 8 hours or more. So it's mostly, I'm not proposing that any new bills come from myself or my team for water operator time. What I'm saying is that there's a large amount of time that gets spent by your water operators to do these things for the private customer. And it probably makes sense to start having an appropriate fee to start paying that back, and that starts covering some of your operating costs. Meaning, like,
So
I'm not
we're
proposing
actually
changing
talking about
anything.
maybe 8 hours of operator time then, so 4 hours for the
No, we're
tap.
already paying as the water,
Right,
we're already
Yeah.
paying it through the system.
right, I understand. But in
Yeah.
terms of what this new fee is encompassing, so it's actually 8 hours. So this new base fee would be including up to 8 hours of operator time, 4 hours for the tap, and then 4 hours to build the meter set.
Yeah, and no need to like keep track of, okay, Chris or Sharon, now you need to make a bill for so-and-so because on this date we were there for this many hours for this thing, and on this date for this many hours, and let's find all the last pieces to the meter set and figure out how much to bill for the meter set from the last set of things that we bought. It is very administratively cumbersome for you guys.
Mhm.
And it makes more sense to just have an appropriate connection fee that includes reviewing the application, witnessing the tap, building the meter set, installing the meter set, making sure that everything is functioning properly, etc. That makes a whole lot of sense. And then that goes into your whatever fund you
The
determine.
reserve fund, yeah, ultimately.
Yep.
And then for those special occasions, like the one that was off of Fitch Avenue, where you were there for a full day for something else, would that be a separate type of service that would be billed to the folks?
If it ends up being just like an entire like 8 or a 12-hour day, we can discuss with you guys if you think it's appropriate to bill them for that additional time or not. But it's basically, you have the wording in there so that if there was some kind of, they basically didn't have properly functioning curbs, and they
Right.
didn't have their water lines were cut and capped with tape in the middle of a field.
Yeah, there was a whole lot of mess going on there.
There was a whole lot of mess going on
Over
there,
and
and they
above.
weren't properly sized per their, yeah, it was a mess. Anyways, I mean, it's your discretion, really. Because
Okay.
I'm not proposing that any new charges go to you guys. I'm just saying it makes more sense for the water system to be billing a fee that actually covers what you're expending out of your the labor that you're providing, basically.
And we're also proposing that the hourly rate be increased from $40 to $75.
Okay. Should've been a selection.
The touchpad thing had already been approved previously, but it shows. And then,
Wait, back up to the special fees. What about, I see you've got inaccessible touchpad. What about meters that aren't working?
that's on us, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you can't get access to them, that's on them. Because I know, that Jill, you have plenty that you can't get access to that they won't let you in, right?
I know, and what was really neat is that Justin wrote a couple people some letters, like, hey, you basically have 30 days to let somebody in and have a conversation, or we're gonna, potentially start charging you a non-functioning meter fee. So
I think we need to have that. I do think we need to have that in there, because sometimes people just figure if they ignore you.
Yeah,
A
yeah, and-
non-functioning meter fee,
Yeah.
I don't know.
But isn't that,
about $50 a quarter?
It should
Well-
be, it should be, not to interrupt you guys, but it should be enough to warrant making them be allowed to go in there, cause if you just knock them for $25,
Yeah.
they get $25, ain't no big deal to me.
It
Take the
may
wrench,
save me $200 in water fees.
or take the wrench out of the back of the truck and go,
although
turn
if
it
we
off.
adopt this new fee structure, there's gonna be the base rate no matter what,
Mhm.
whether the,
Yeah.
whether the meter's working or not.
Yeah, but I mean,
if
if you're not
they're
calculating
filling-
water charges, right?
Yeah, if
I
they're like
think we need to
filling
put some teeth
pools
in
and filling pools and, you know, watering their garden absorbently, they could certainly use, or having leaking fixtures inside, they could use a whole lot of water.
I think we need to have that fee.
So that would be.
Jill,
I think the fee ought to be a letter and says if you don't let us in to repair your meter, your water will be shut off in 30 days or 20 days or 10 days.
I mean, we can certainly do that. It's just that the way the ordinance is written and the Vermont statutes have to agree with that.
Right.
It's really tricky in shutting water off and the what is and isn't allowed in the state of Vermont and the wording inside of the ordinance to do such.
Yeah,
So we-
I would put a fee in there.
So we have a-
We need to make it hurt.
We have an inaccessible touchpad for 25. What do we want? A non-functioning meter fee.
Non-functioning, non-accessible meter.
Jill, let me ask you the question. So let's say my meter doesn't work over there and I'll say, no, I know I'm using twice as much water as I'm getting billed for. I'm just gonna continue. And, okay, and then someone else buys that house in 3 years and then they let you in. All that excess usage when you put a new meter in, will that be recalculated or not?
No, if a meter
Then I
can't
think
read it,
I want some language that says we have the option. We have something that says, there's something in our ordinance that says if you're wasting water, we have the right to shut you off.
that's in the current.
What is a non-functioning meter? Wasting water.
Not necessarily.
I think we have,
I think we put a fee that hurts.
Gets their attention.
$100,
$50 a quarter.
$50 a quarter.
$50 a quarter for non-functioning meter.
Well, it's,
Right.
we're thinking about
It's
being
ongoing,
$50
so,
anyway.
Yeah.
So another
Or even
$50.
even
Yeah.
100.
So 100, and their normal is.
You could also set it at like the same rate or 1.5 times your
Base.
monthly base fee is.
Okay.
Something like that, would be easy verbiage. That way, as that goes up, you don't have to remember to go back and fix the
Right.
ordinance.
Well, that's nice.
It just follows rates,
That's true.
1.5 times what, Chris?
Your base rate.
your base rate.
Chris,
Good,
that
I'll
works good because then you don't have to keep doing like there's 2.5 pages that read 0. And you know for a darn fact, there are very few vacant properties, very few. So,
And if they are, they
Out of
aren't
those-
making for long.
Out of those
Alright,
2.5, out of those 2.5 pages of non-meter reading, how many have been sent letters and repeatedly trying to get in there?
Well, I
Half a
think,
page?
we've made phone calls, we've got like maybe 10 people in the last year with meter tickets that have actually scheduled with us and let us go in and replace them. The
I
rest
think,
don't answer their phone, they don't answer their door.
I think it's
About
pretty
the answer
simple.
certified mail.
Once we enact this, we send that whole list, a letter saying that as of,
Certified.
as
The
of,
new base.
the next
billing
quarter.
unit, and then, yeah, one and
They
a
can
half
refuse.
times.
Yeah. you'll pay
Okay.
1.5 times
So if you're gonna
per
send it,
quarter
you send it regularly now, and-
until your meter is fixed.
Because they could.
And they
refuse
they might not even know they don't have a working meter, but if they look at their bill and they
Right.
see 0 gallons,
Just only 10.
Yeah. Do you have that?
What?
1.5 times. Okay.
Well,
Okay.
Michelle just mentioned, I said, well, then, if we send them, it's $4 or $5, send a certified letter.
$9.
Or $9, and they refuse to sign it. I still think there needs to be some language that says, then we're shutting you off.
Well, but we'd
You still
have
have
to,
to
we'd
get
have to look
notes.
at that in terms of at the state
Right,
level,
because
what we're allowed
there are
to
a
do.
lot of protections for people about when you can turn the water off, because it's.
I know you
You know,
can't.
if I got a baby or if you got.
Right,
yeah,
right,
you
like
know.
3 days, you
Winter
know,
time,
a certain amount of
yeah.
time without water, people die, so.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
Any road
protection
used to
against
say,
shutting
we
off.
can collect taxes like
Okay.
we collect water.
So page 2, you have a couple
So
other
send them
things.
out.
Right.
F
And
looks
maybe
like
down
it's
the
a
next day.
repeat from above. The F that's above there is, it says $500 connection fee. I think that that's the new service connection fee. I think that's already addressed above.
So Sharon told me the other day, I got the check all cut, $500.
I know, you want to do
They
this
had before we
before this
changed the
gets
rates.
approved.
Haven't seen it.
It's supposed to be sent today, the bank.
Wait, where is it, Jill, where is it above, you said?
Yeah, what are you talking
So-
about?
Connection fees.
Oh,
Up there, where
Did
it's
we change
three-quarter
it
inch
to 18?
residential.
Hold on. Jill,
Oh, you gotta go back up.
See how it's already right there, connection fee?
for the three-quarter residential, okay.
Yeah, under D, so if you go under special fees and charges, 1.03, A, B, C, D, E, and then you go to F, that's it again, but that's no longer relevant.
Oh,
Okay.
right, so that needs to be struck down and
Yeah.
replaced.
Yep.
So that's where, yeah, because these are just floating
Okay,
notes.
that's where that goes then.
Yeah, yeah,
All that goes in there.
yeah. That makes sense.
And we'll tell you.
Okay.
if I did.
Thanks, Eric.
Bye,
See ya.
Eric.
All right, so we'll take out F. And then
Yeah.
it
Or
looks
just
like you,
move the body into F. All
Right,
that,
right.
all that blue
Yeah.
goes in there.
And then the other thing, for G4, we are suggesting that, the water operator be authorized to invoice and receive payment for bulk water purchases, such as contractors that want to hook onto the water for a construction project or something. And Jill can explain the rationale behind this.
We
From the
made
town of
payable
Bristol.
to the town of Bristol, and it's because what'll happen is they'll come to the pump house, for instance, to get a tank load of water. I don't think it makes sense for me to fill their tank of water with 500 gallons of water or 5,000 gallons of water, whatever it might be. They leave. I communicate to Sharon or Chris, hey, can you make a bill out to blah, 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 blah for, 500 gallons of water, 5,000 gallons of water. Here's how to do the calculation. Can you make the bill out? At this point, they've left with the water. They may never pay the bill again. It's not a customer that we normally work with. So I'm like, I've got those little slips in the drawer. I've got the rate structure. I just make them out a bill and I tell them when they schedule to get the bulk water, I'll have a check with you made out to the town of Bristol. This is the amount for the water you're asking for.
Yeah.
And then
I agree with that.
and then I hand it to Chris or Sharon and they deposit it in your account and we're done.
And I'd like to see that billed to the town of Bristol.
yeah.
No, when the town of Bristol buys water for washing bridges. Eric, the water
Oh.
department, or the public works washing bridges.
Oh, gosh, I have to say in full
Wash
defense of
or
the
flush
partnership,
hydrants.
Yeah.
the highway department and the water department have a very awesome relationship. It's a very, very good relationship and I wouldn't wanna put
I'm
pressure
not-
on it.
I'm
It's for
not
all the town
saying
of
that.
Bristol. Oh, okay.
But, the water users are paying for everybody else in the town to get that benefit. That's what I'm saying.
Oh,
But aren't those water users also paying for the roads that are being washed and the bridges that are being washed? I mean, I think that's.
Yeah, but you're not the whole town's not paying for it, but the water use, anything.
That's the argument of someone living on
It's
the
no-
road has to pay for sidewalks, right? I mean, isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's no different than when the police go out of the district, the district payers are paying double because they pick up whatever we charge.
Yeah.
So the water, you're doing the same thing with the water.
You are.
I don't think it's enough money to.
Right, that's,
I
yeah.
don't think it's enough money to worry about.
And I hate to see it go the other direction, is the times that the highway department.
It's
does
working
things
with
for
the water
water.
department.
I haven't seen that
Yeah,
happen.
they're providing us fill for
Every
water
time they
leaks.
fix the roads, every time South Street's been fixed, that pothole, it's Eric who's down there, it's his guys that are fixing that.
Yeah,
So-
you're
I've
right.
actually
So we
fixed
should
it.
leave all the water department?
Yeah, it should be.
At that point, we're getting
Right.
nitpicky.
Yeah,
So,
we
yeah,
are.
no, I get
We
it.
are.
We're getting nitpicky. Okay.
Which you guys, you and your water bills aren't going up. Yours and mine and are going up. The
Mine
more
goes
water
up
we
only
use.
because my power bill goes.
I mean, our bills are going up because we have 1905 water pumps in the ground. That's why our bills are gonna go up.
Okay.
So what are your thoughts about these proposed adjustments?
So they look good, but we're still gonna be working on the rate structure and the water service
Correct.
fees, right? Because
Yes.
these are the current ones, are 27.55 per quarter per EU. All that's gonna change. So we have another round of this to update potentially.
Right,
Yeah,
but these particular charges can be updated
So,
sure.
independently of the
so
bill.
Jill, it's going, so somebody going to Florida, they call you and said, I want my water shut off by November 1st. So it was $40, now it's going to 75.
Never have I ever charged anybody for that. The only time we've ever charged people for a water turn on or shut off is if it's like they didn't pay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, now we do.
Oh, look at that, temporary or seasonal shut off or turn on. I suppose it is now. Okay, well, I don't know. Do you guys want to charge them that? Because they're still gonna get a water bill for 45.
Yeah, but you still have to go out there and actually shut it off.
Well,
Yep.
most of the time it's the homeowner doing it themselves.
They allowed to do that?
There's 5 of them where the curb.
They shut it off themselves. They don't do it at the curb.
Oh,
They
I
do it
see.
at the house. and
Oh, that's different. I think that's different.
Well, that's what most of them do. I think there may be
So then
one
we
or
don't
two
charge
that you
them
maybe
anyway.
do.
I mean, I have a.
Wait, so are
She
the,
said she's got 5 she does.
5.
but our homeowners are allowed to do that
Inside, yeah.
Inside. Yeah.
Inside.
But they don't expect to get charged. I'm gone for the winter. I've shut off my water at my
Yeah.
house.
No, that's true.
Yeah, no,
I'm talking about the curb.
yeah, I'm actually talking about her actually physically going there and shutting
Right,
it
so,
off at
so
the curb
the,
stop.
so the wordage is that we just put in, if the water operator
Mhm.
is called, is needed for a shut off, then that's a charge.
Yeah.
Right, so we could put that verbiage in there.
Okay.
If the water operator is required,
Mhm.
then that's a charge.
How many do you shut off, Jill?
She's at 5.
Now,
5?
if these are just temporary, okay, are these seasonal shut offs or are they the temporary ones where they've got a plumber in there working and they want?
That's what I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
Cause I do like 100 a year.
I
There's
guess
a
we have to
lot.
look at the administrative value.
There's always a, there's
Right,
always sitting
right.
there.
That's
Do you
true.
consider it part of the contract now, Jill? Is that how you?
Yeah.
how you
Yeah,
handle
so
it?
that's why I was saying, I don't know that I'd want to charge for that. It feels like
Okay.
it's a little too much.
Because they're still getting the 45 or maybe $50
Yeah,
for 2 quarters that they're gone.
okay.
Yeah, and honestly, to shut the water off at the curb when they're having plumbing done is the responsible thing to do so that they don't like flood out their house. And I don't want people to all of a sudden start changing their behavior and, taking the risk of having half the water system dump into their basement because they're worried about paying a fee. So I'd rather not.
I guess there's a part of me that says leave it in there and we can choose to charge it or not charge it. At least if it's in there, it's in there.
Is that the
Yep.
75 for
Yeah.
out of cycle read too?
For
Or
what?
did,
Out of
out of
cycle
cycle
read.
read right now is 40. Are we changing that to 75 or
Yes,
is that?
everything that's 40 goes to 75.
Nice. For the page 2, G4, could we add in, into invoice and receive payment by check, to the town of Bristol? in
Yes,
there?
please.
For selling water, you mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
Not that I think the water operator is going to.
No, I don't want
accept a
people
check
paying
for our
me.
water for 500 gallons, but to be not, just to have it in there, so we have it in there.
And it's also clear for the end user.
Yeah, they can read it and be like, okay, I need to make a check out to the town of Bristol.
Okay, we've now been at this for an hour or so.
It's
And I told Kevin it was gonna be 10 minutes and he's been on for the last half hour.
Thanks, Kevin.
So you're good with this so far? Do you want to vote to approve or do you want to wait with the other stuff?
I thought we were gonna wait for Chris.
Well, no,
We could-
this we can change just at a meeting. We don't need like voter approval, so
No,
if
no,
we
I
change
know.
it now, we can change it again.
I make a motion to approve the changes made this evening to the,
The structure, the special charges.
well, it's
Appendix
the
B is
the
Appendix B.
document,
Yeah.
the Bristol Water Use Ordinance,
Appendix B.
Appendix B.
I'll second.
There's a motion and second to accept appendix B, the change.
Separate from the billing.
From the
Right,
village.
separate from the rate structure.
Right. Any more discussion?
No.
Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Okay. Now can we move on to number 8? Preparation,
Kevin.
there's Kevin.
Kevin.
Preparation for final select board.
You're
public-
red, Kevin.
I know,
Public hearing, and this is hearing
Regarding
regarding.
modifications to the proposed Bristol Unified Development Ordinance.
All right.
Sorry, I have all over it.
Okay. Kevin, you're gonna fill us in on this, I guess?
No, Kevin's got a comment because yeah, you guys read the memo. The PC at their meeting changed the setbacks to 20 feet. Or all this,
To
all in
match the
favor
principal
for the principal.
in two areas.
Village residential and
High density,
HDR.
yeah.
15 feet in the HDR, 20 feet in the village residential, same for accessories and principal structures. That's the proposed change.
And I had asked Kevin about this because they had talked about a waiver process. And Kevin said, well, that doesn't really give the DRB any direction for, on where to go with pre-existing structures. And he said, what they should have focused on, what we should have focused on is the use and not the building. He said, because somebody who wants to put in a garage shouldn't have to have the same setbacks as the house. They could still have a 15-foot setback. And there's a lot of pre-existing structures
That are even
that
closer.
are not even, that don't
Well, wait, I
apply.
thought but I thought that the idea of the waiver was the grandfathering. That was what
It was-
what the PC.
No, it
No?
was for any pre-existing, any pre-existing building would have to request a waiver, but
Oh,
then
right.
the Development Review Board doesn't have any direction on what did the PC want?
No, Mick, that's a little
Are
off.
we allowing them or not allowing it?
Mick,
Go ahead, Kevin.
no, it's the waiver would only apply to a new use, somebody who has wants to put a building in and who can't meet the setbacks. That's what would be waived. The pre-existing non-conforming structures don't get handled by the waiver. They're there. So the background to this is listening to the last meeting, it was a long time ago now, but the meeting that I was with the board and with the chair of the PC, we're talking about accessory dwelling units and other uses in the HDR and in the village residential, which had the potential to create conflicts because the lots are small and the town's pretty well built out in a lot of ways. So one of the things that the board talked about a lot was, well, what do you, sort of the camel's nose under the tent problem? You get somebody who says, I'm putting in a garage and, that's fine. It goes, it meets the setbacks 10 feet in the HDR or 20 feet in the village residential. And then a year or two later, now it becomes an accessory dwelling unit or something else. That's a permitted use. And how do we deal with that problem? Because once the structure's there, the change in use to another by right use, the town has, the zoning administrator has no authority, the DRB has no authority, it just happens. So like a lot of things in law, this came to a head, or at least came to saliency by the problem on Garfield Street with a structure that went in. Yes, there were some mistakes there, but still it was a structure that went in with, it's supposed to be an ADU on the second floor. It's pretty close to the property lines, but it was legal as far as setbacks. And then after that project went away, it came back as a proposed club, which is a allowed use in the HDR or the residential, whichever one it was. And one of the aspects of the club was blacksmithing to forge blades. That was one of the trades they were going to teach in the club or allow artisans to work at, along with woodworking, and that thing is tucked right into the corner. So how do we deal I was trying to think of how do we deal with this potential conflict of use problem, because it's gonna be heightened, as time, and my thought, so I'm wearing my DRB hat now. My thought was, well, one thing we could say is if a structure is going to be used, if a accessory structure is going to be used as an accessory dwelling unit or some other use, like a club or something like that, or at least as an ADU, that it has to, structure has to meet the same setbacks as the principal residence, because there's some offsite impacts when you create another living space or in the back corner. And Michelle and I corresponded with the PC some on it, but they didn't, I don't think they really kind of grasped it. I think it would be legal to do it, because you're not treating, even though we're supposed to encourage accessory dwelling units, you're not treating it any worse than single family residence. But it would solve the problem created by somebody who sticks a garage in that meets setbacks, and then a little bit down the road, whether just by change of intention or was the deal all along, becomes something more intensive, and you've already got the building there at that point. That's what we were trying to deal with. So the PC's approach here just, frankly, just kind of missed the problem. I don't like, well, backing up, that I think that would work if we just said, if it's an accessory dwelling unit in an accessory structure, you're gonna turn that into an apartment. That structure has to meet the same setbacks as the principal building in that unit or in that district. Provides some protection going forward, and it provides protection against the problem that a lot of towns are facing, where private equity money buys up residences, rents them out as Airbnbs, and then wants to do the same thing in the accessory structure. It's not happening a lot, I don't think, yet in Bristol. But it's happening in other towns, particularly ski towns. And so you have absentee landlords who really don't care too much about the impact of the use on the neighbors. And so it might provide some protection there. The other difficult legal reality is in the HDR and the village residential. They're old lots and they're old buildings. A lot of the lots and a lot of the buildings are pre-existing non-conforming structures already. It's a 10,000 square foot minimum lot size in those districts, and there's a lot of outbuildings tucked right up against property lines as they are. And when you go to change, if you have a non-conforming structure, it creates restrictions about what you can do going forward. So the idea that the waiver, just letting the DRB handle it as a waiver, we have a section in the ordinance. The first three aren't going to be any bar at all if we're concerned about impact of a use that's going to have an offsite impact. The first one is by right or permitted use. It's got to be one of those. Well, there are a lot of those in the HDR and the village residential that if you tuck that into a backyard garage could have some serious impacts on neighbors. Does it conform to the town plan? Everything that's a permitted use in those districts is going to conform to the town plan. Does it conform to the character of land use in the area as defined by the town plan? Well, of course it does. So the fourth one is maybe there's a little help here. Does it have design techniques or other remedies to limit the impact or potential impact on one's neighbors? And that talks about like windows and things like that. It doesn't necessarily get at the use, so. I mean, the board can, on a case-by-case basis, deal with, have waiver authority. It's a, it's a good thing to have a safety valve. And we had that in the old ordinance, both 2 or 3 or 4 versions, however many have been there since I've been there. And we used to have to look to the area around. And if other people had a garage or something up against the property line, well, you could do the same here. So what ended up happening is the board would always say, well, yeah, that's what other people are doing. So you end up disregarding flushing down the toilet, the setbacks anyway. Because one after the other, as soon as somebody comes in, you never want to be the bad guy, or rarely want to be the bad guy. So you say, yeah, okay, that's what the board's going to do. The problem from a policy standpoint, from my perspective, is that when you create these waiver processes and the way boards work, it ends up depending in large measure on how you get along with your neighbors. So most of the time, nobody's there to complain, and there's a waiver asked for on setbacks, the board would say, yeah, okay. But if you've got some neighbor who doesn't like you, or has another concern who is a squeaky wheel, then you don't get your waiver, or might not get your waiver, and another property with different neighbors might. And so it creates this unequal sort of playing field in some ways, where the board's authority gets swayed by whether or not neighbors come in to say, yeah, I don't mind, or yeah, I'm against this. And that's just what that individual neighbor thinks at the time shouldn't necessarily be all controlling. Property owners change. If we're talking about land use and the way we try to develop according to a plan, having it turn on opposition, essentially turn on opposition from neighbors, isn't really the best solution, at least in my view. So I prefer, well, I think the solution that actually Michelle and I talked about it quite a bit, came up with on, if the problem is going to be accessory dwelling units in these outbuildings, then make the outbuilding not eligible for that use unless it already meets the setbacks, same setbacks for the principal residence. I don't know in the HDR, the village residential, how many existing structures that would actually remove from eligibility for accessory use, but that's the things I've been wrestling with.
I mean, I would think it removes probably quite a lot. I mean, Joel, you often use your example of your barn behind your house, but that, I mean, that probably doesn't meet current setbacks in terms of your district, your area. So you wouldn't.
It's more than 10 feet all the way around.
Oh, okay.
So I could turn it into a
okay.
apartment.
So that case does, but I bet there's going to be a lot that don't, and so you've lost that opportunity to do anything with an existing structure that you have.
Right.
Well, other than use it for a garage and other things, you've lost the opportunity to turn it into an apartment.
Right.
But the whole reason that we're revising these is to increase density, right?
Right.
So it seems like, it seems counterproductive.
Yeah.
And I mean, as far as saying there's extra impact on the neighbors, like what if I decided to start a band in my garage, right? Like I would be able to do that. That would be a lot of impact, maybe more so than just somebody living in there.
Right.
That's what he's laughing at me. I could do this, Valerie.
Do you even have a garage? I don't
No. Be a shed.
Yeah. Chris, what are your thoughts on terms of is it gonna remove a great number of people from the ability of doing ADUs?
Yeah, you're gonna see a big influx on people wanting to do it, in all honesty, is one of the big reasons I hear or heard was trying to make it affordable. People are trying to figure out how to pay mortgages.
Right.
So I mean, I know, I look at my house, I'm on 4 tenths of an acre, which is a fairly decent sized village lot, and my garage wouldn't qualify.
Right.
It's 10 feet, it's exactly 10 feet off the back line.
Right,
And it qualifies for a garage could be 10 feet, because that's a setback.
right, but it's not 15 feet or 20 or whatever.
15.
15, yeah.
So, I don't know what the numbers, I think would be fairly healthy. I mean, you walk around the village,
Yeah.
most of the garage, especially the older barns that were, the old horse barn, whatever you want, carry barns, were pushed right up to the backside of the property. That was intentional development. Your eve lines actually dripped on your neighbor, and that was sort of the intention.
Yeah, it's 10 feet side yard and rear yard in both districts, HDR and VR, for the accessory buildings. That's the existing standard. And I'm sure there are some of the older buildings that don't meet that, but the Garfield Street building did actually meet the side yard and rear yard setbacks, but that didn't solve the problem. And, or maybe it's not a problem. I mean, maybe, you know, the select board, there's tensions here.
So Kevin, if we're gonna kind of undo what they did, put it back to what they had for setbacks, then we would just put a definition under the section 404 of the the accessory dwelling unit, and say in VR and HDR, any structure in which an ADU is going to be put in an accessory structure must meet the setbacks as the primary structure.
Yeah, that would be the way to principal structure. That would be the way to address it if the board wanted to do that. If the board thought that was a helpful thing. If it doesn't, that's fine. Procedurally, the way the bylaw adoption process works is the planning commission recommends to the select board, and then the select board has a year to act on it. And if it changes substantively any part of the bylaw proposal from the planning commission, then the board is supposed to refer it back to the planning commission for comment, not approval. And then the board can go ahead at a subsequent hearing and have its vote. So the planning commission is advisory, and but ultimately the adoption is the act of the select board. Well, and then on to the voters.
So what happens, so if we don't agree with this, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
it's then left, it's up to the DRB to interpret what's the process now? If we don't go with the PC's recommendation of the waiver process, like that language isn't in our regulations now.
We have waiver now.
Oh,
There's
okay.
a waiver language.
Okay, so that's why they suggested that, it was because, yes, use that. So, and you're saying that if we don't do anything, if it comes to you, you don't have enough to be able to work with to make a decision, is that correct? Is that what I'm?
The waiver avenue is relevant only if somebody can't meet setbacks for some reason. Somebody wants to put a new garage in, or a new, and have an ADU, let's say, or not. But for some reason, they can't meet or don't want to meet the existing 10-foot setbacks. Then we have the authority as the DRB to waive the setback requirements. It's called a dimensional standard. That doesn't come up very often, frankly. So it doesn't get at what seemed to be a problem, and what might be a building problem of conflict with intensification of use in a part of the town, just where the lots are really small to begin with. But that's a policy choice. Maybe that's not seen by the board as a problem at all, and that's fine.
I mean, I guess we could change it to 15 for both principal and accessory. And Chris decides he wants to turn his garage into an ADU, and he's at 10 feet. He could apply for that waiver, and then it would be up to the DRB to decide whether he could do that. Is that correct? He
Well,
presents his
no, you
case.
know, so the waiver, if the building already exists, it's
Yeah.
it's just a non-conform, and it doesn't meet setbacks.
Yeah,
It's just, the structure, is non-conforming, doesn't say anything about the use, so.
okay,
It really is a situation where it's a new use. A new structure, I should say, that for some reason, doesn't meet or can't meet setbacks on the lot.
okay. So then he
There's
doesn't
a-
have an option.
I guess there's another part of it, though, you know, so if you increase setbacks for outbuildings in these two districts, you are by definition making a bunch of new non-conforming structures.
Non-conforming lots.
It's just the opposite.
So whenever you do that, you know, that makes alteration, any enlargement, it really ties the property owner's hands on even things that wouldn't have an impact offsite on neighbors. You can't enlarge a non-conforming structure. So, if you by definition raise the setbacks in the HDR and village residential, now you've made a bunch of existing buildings that complied before. Now they're non-compliant, and so somebody couldn't put a side, roof on, a shed roof or something for a woodshed, or if it increased the, if it increased the setback violation, so. It's not helpful to create non-conforming structures generally.
Okay. I mean, the whole discussion about this, because Michelle and I were at that meeting when we talked about this, was the idea that you're, with new structures, you're sort of offering these two areas more protection from having larger structures come in and dominate potentially. And so
Right.
that's why the 15 was changed and to 20 was sort of to give that buffer for neighbors. But of course, by doing that, as you explained tonight, you're limiting what people can do with existing structures, and also then making all these changes to structures just by doing that one change.
Yeah, so 10 or 15 possible new builds, you're gonna impact potentially 50 to 100 existing.
Right.
It doesn't seem like.
I know, and the whole idea is that we're trying to accommodate as many people as possible to be able to perhaps put in ADUs. I mean, that's what the state is encouraging.
So,
So do we just go back and we don't accept?
well, no,
You know,
what we could do is leave this, don't accept what they're saying, but leave the setbacks as they were, and then just add that definition
Okay.
under the ADU
Okay,
and send that back to the PC just for the review, not necessarily
So
approval, and say, this is what
we keep 10 feet as accessory and.
yeah, you
whatever
got
the other one-
20 and 10 for.
Yeah,
10
the
feet
10 feet for
accessory,
both
and
of
then-
those
are they both
districts.
10? Yeah. Mhm.
And then there's language in the ADU section, whatever that
404,
is. Yeah,
page
404, with regard to that, if you're wanting to change your building
Right.
into an ADU, no matter if it's a new structure. So what was,
So with like within that definitions. if you go to
yeah, so
53,
what have you come up with?
I was like,
I know.
any structure in which an ADU. It doesn't,
Yeah.
in an accessory structure must meet the
Accessory
setbacks as the
structure.
primary structure.
Oh, I see, so right, so if it's a garage, you can keep it at the 10, but if you want to make an ADU,
Then it has
you've gotta
to,
meet
You
50.
gotta
which
drag
means
it
then they can't
15.
do it.
Right, then they can't do it.
Let's say only, again, you have only. You can only do 900 square feet. But you opted to do the actual ADU starts 15 feet off from the line. So you got like a 5-foot piece of your upper garage you're not gonna use. I'm telling you, just doing this is the crazy stuff you get when people come in.
Yeah.
Okay,
So, I don't know, I'm glad I'm not.
All I'm in favor of are things that increase density. We want more taxpayers, we want people to have affordable housing. And we also have a lot of elderly people living in town that have nowhere else to go. There are no other places for them to move. And creating an ADU might create possibilities for them to age in
You
place.
also have to look at the other people who don't want somebody to have apartments in their backyard.
But if you move into the village, you
expect that.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
have-
you already have that. You don't,
But
what
they
they're looking
could-
at is people that are worried about is structures that are right
And
on
I
the line that are
totally-
not gonna have an apartment and more people and more
And I
traffic. and
totally
more-
get that, but if
So-
you don't buy the lot behind your house, you always face that, like,
Right.
you know, and when you buy a lot, they could like, subdivide, I mean, they're all, when you buy in the village, if you don't buy the lots around you, something can always go up. And I just feel like everybody knows and expects that. They might not like it, but it's the reality, right? You buy the lot behind you if you don't want anyone to build behind
Well,
you.
you can't buy the lot behind you in the village.
Exactly, and that's why you should buy in the village if you don't want people close to you.
What we're talking about in sort of the high density residential, the main area is 5 feet. And so that's really what it is. It's like trying to offer that 5-foot buffer. So it's, you're a house potentially, or an ADU isn't 10 feet from your property line, it's 15 feet. So it's like, that's the thing. But you're absolutely right. The whole idea of this is to have more people live here and high density. And especially with some of the other changes too, where it's your units per acre are changing, where once it was 2, we're now saying 4 can go there. So that's even closer.
Where you take my place again, it's a narrow lot. And if I wanted to take my garage, I could do that, put an apartment in, but I don't have room for septic for more. I think that's another thing.
There are other constraints, right? But I mean, I live in the village and this could happen all around me, right? I'm not just saying this for other people.
Right.
What I'm saying is we all have to accommodate this density. It's important for the development of Bristol. It's important for affordability. It might not be something we like, but I think it's necessary, and I will be one of the first people to have to deal with that. So.
Kevin, one of the
And where
questions.
you live, unlikely somebody's gonna do that.
Oh,
Right.
the lot across from me, though.
Sure.
Yes.
Kevin, the question I have is I remember late 80s, I was on the village DRB or zoning board then we called it. And one of my first cases, and I voted no on it, was somebody in the village here had a little small shed. You could barely get a car in, maybe 10 foot wide the shed was, 10 feet high and 12 feet long. And they came into the board to want to build a 3-car, this was like 12 inches from the line, from the property line. They wanted to build a 2.5-story garage, 3-bed crossed. And I asked the question, can't you move it towards your house a little bit? So when the roofer falls off the roof, he's not landing in your neighbor's yard. And they go, oh no, we do this all the time because it was non-conforming use. It was, they didn't put it any closer to the line. They didn't move it away from the line. But they said, because it's the same structure. Pre-existing. I'm going, we're talking a shed versus a 3-car garage. But they didn't put it any closer. And that's where, that would have stuck in my craw.
That was wrong.
And
If it's 10 feet of non-conformance, if you want to make it a 12-foot structure, you've added 2 feet of non-conformance, so that should not.
they voted, Doc right now, we're the only 2 that voted no on it, the rest of them all voted yes. So, okay, there is language for that thing.
Yes.
Okay.
So let me get back to this. So if we do nothing right, if we don't accept what their changes are.
Yeah.
And we don't add this definition in here, then people can do what they want with whatever their accessory structures are.
Within the parameters.
Within the,
Right.
right.
Well, the
And
parameters
we
are
have-
still 10 feet.
Right.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
that's
but
something.
it also means that if it's a pre-existing, non-conforming accessory building, they can do any by right use in those districts in that structure.
Without going through the DRB, the zoning
Right.
administrator can just approve that.
Right, right. So I agree, increasing density is important, but keep in mind that there's no restriction at all about putting an ADU in the principal structure. That's how they actually started. And that's always still available. They used to, when they first came around, we called them the mother apartment, and they can go in the principal structure. It increases density, and it doesn't have the problems that you have when you put an ADU in the, or potential problems when you put an ADU in the garage.
I mean, we do have language in terms of the changes to those two areas. We have the height, and we have the accessory structure going from 1,000 to 900. So we did make those changes, or we accepted those changes, which helps control how large a structure might be.
Right.
So we do have a little bit of protection there. So even if we don't agree with the 15 and the 20, and we just keep it at 10, that maybe provides a balance for people who want to do these, either want to use their existing building or build a new building. At least we've kept that new structure a little bit smaller.
Right.
Yep.
Which was part of the problem with Garfield Street, right? Was the height of the building and the.
No, the height was correct. It was a number.
It's still over 25 feet.
Right.
You build a wooden garage, you build a barn there that size, but it looked like an old fashioned barn, yeah, I think it would have been fine.
No.
The metal structure.
There was a
It looks like a
barn there that was right on the property line years ago.
Mhm.
Actually, there was two. There was one on the corner lot, the back of it, and the eaves off of the one on Garfield ran onto the back of the garage on.
So do we have any more questions for Kevin, or can he,
No.
can we leave?
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yeah, I just, on the way home, I want to throw one thing out. I was thinking about comments at the previous discussion about School Street. So yes, it's Mount Abe is a municipality, but that doesn't make the line necessarily a public water line. If I was in KTP and I wanted to tap into the Mount Abe line, I couldn't go to them and say, hey, well, you're a municipality, it's a public line, you have to let me on. That's not how it works. We've got this Mount Abe as a user on their own. It's no different in status than any other private line. It's no different than Lawson Lane or the other extension, like J Drive. If we hadn't taken it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
Any questions?
Bye.
Okay. Have a good night,
Yeah, good
folks.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay, what do we want to do? Do we want to send this back to them again?
Well, we don't have to, well, we have to send it back just to them for review. We just have to make a decision. Are we?
Well,
We're gonna go back to what it originally was.
correct. Well,
Are we
no,
gonna add a
no,
definition?
it doesn't change. They're making the recommendation to us. We haven't updated the document.
Right.
Where's the live document? Do you have that?
It's online.
Oh, I have the PDF.
Well, where's the one where the changes are being made?
Well, I just had that. I mean.
Because we need to update that. Their choice or their suggestion to say 15 and 20.
They haven't changed it on the document.
No,
Yeah.
but I'm wondering who has that document? Who's doing that?
I suppose I do have it. I mean, I have that. in
Yeah,
Word.
so that change hadn't been made. So this stays
Yeah,
as it is.
yeah.
And the only other thing that does change from their previous comment is where is it?
What are you looking for? Well, maybe we can tell you.
No, it was in their last,
Their January
Their
16th
January
memo
memo.
following the hearing and the minutes of that hearing. There was consensus among the board to accept the planning commission's recommendations and hold a subsequent hearing for the latest iteration of draft UDRs. It was also agreed PC members should be provided an opportunity to comment when the next hearing is scheduled and provide a new memo to the select board.
no, it was the previous one. Here we go. It was the
Village, they had recommendations
Yeah.
of village mixed district and a section of the 404 accessory dwelling.
right. So it's page 53. They talked about a revised sentence for item 3C, which would be new construction in the village planning area shall be set back from the front property at least, front property line at least 20 feet greater than the main single-family dwelling.
Mhm.
So that was just it was the addition of village planning area.
Mhm.
And so we need to, that's not in that document that you have.
Right.
It's in this one. The one that's online, that's under, that was noticed for the public.
No,
hearing.
because where's, it doesn't
At
say the
least 20
village,
feet.
no, the village
Oh, I
planning
see.
area,
Village-
that actual language. So that's not in there, so we need to update that if we choose to accept that.
And that's just in the sort of area that we said it needs to retain its historical character.
Well, yes, correct, the village planning area.
Are you
That's-
reading from their January
Village
16th
planning
memo?
is actually
Yes.
Berkey Road,
Mhm.
it runs to basically the mountain from east to west.
Oh,
North
okay.
to south, south is Hewitt Road, north is basically.
Plank?
Oh, so
not-
the village.
Well, it
Yeah, so when you-
exceeds Pasco, I mean, it comes off of Plank Road
Okay,
There it is.
and all of Berkey Road.
okay,
As far south, it's almost a Johnson, I mean, it's Lathrop's old mill,
right,
and that whole area, so it's more than just the old village, which is right on the flat.
right, okay.
So.
Right, so that was essentially just in the village planning area, needs to be added to C.
Yep.
And then they also asked that D be struck. And their reasoning was, while the intent was to clearly define subordinate, it has been and is a conflict with the dimensional standards in various districts. So we need to just strike the new construction shall have a height of at least 20%.
Yeah, that was actually pulled out of it.
Yeah.
We're talking about this one and then that.
Yeah, D and E.
Yeah.
Right, so that's
Mhm.
gone. And you got C, yeah, C just has that addition, and that was it. And everything else was the same.
So did you get that change, Val? For what needs to be added to C?
If it's following this memo, I can do that.
Correct.
So Ian, right there, you're saying, so if you build a house and you're barely off the setback on the front yard, the garage or EDU has to be 20 feet back further than the house?
Correct, for new construction.
From the front of the house, so
From the
if the
front.
lots,
From the front.
if the lots.
Front of the
wide
property line, not the front of the house, front of the property line.
Mhm.
It says back from the front property line at least 20 feet greater than the main single family dwelling.
And we've always had verbiage like that.
Yeah, this was just clarifying, I think, in the ADU.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the HDR, we've always had that the secondary structures have to be behind the front line of the
Correct.
house.
Yeah,
By
Yeah.
20 feet.
By 20 feet, yeah, so it does, it can be beside it, it's just gotta be 20 feet,
behind it, right,
no,
yes,
20 feet further back.
Right.
right, yes.
that's on that further back,
Right.
behind it.
Okay.
And that works with the smaller lot sizes that are in the development plan?
If
They,
they're not,
most of the
okay.
smaller ones that have to be right behind it, because the lots aren't wide enough
Wide
to put
enough.
it beside it.
Right.
But if the lot's small enough and their house is big enough, they may not have the room.
Right.
Right.
I mean, you have to
You
have
can't
some
put everything.
restrictions, or you're just gonna have buildings very close to each other. The idea is you're trying to keep character, within the district. And so you're trying to accommodate as many people as we can. And then the other big one was, in terms of that same memo, was page 20. We had proposed the village mixed district have footprint/structure
Yeah.
dimensions, and they said not to do that.
Yeah, we nixed that.
Because it affected a lot of the
Right.
businesses.
We didn't know what we were doing.
So if you can, what I would recommend is that if you think you have the master document, create a new one with the latest date on our comments, and then send it with us, and we can take a look. And then I guess that would go back to the planning commission.
For their meeting on the
Yeah.
17th.
Yeah, and
So
the,
are we in agreement, you guys don't wanna put the additional definition in for the ADUs? Cause I'm for that. But,
That it can't go into a non-conforming structure.
I don't want to have any more restrictions. That's my vote.
right,
I'm a yes in my backyard.
I'm a no in my backyard, but I'm way out of here.
Exactly, you made a good choice then.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how do we feel about that? So I want.
I mean, I'm happy to leave the setbacks the way they are.
So I built
I
my,
just don't wanna leave free reign for anybody to do whatever they want.
so I applied for a permit, built my garage exactly 10 feet from the
Mhm.
line in the back.
Mhm.
20 years,
Tomorrow you can turn around.
20 years later, I wanna now, 20 years later, I want to, put in a.
Well, 20 years later, they're probably gonna have a new set of
Well,
regs.
whatever,
Just give
now,
it a week,
right now.
just say a week.
A week,
Yeah.
yeah, and then I'm saying, I'm gonna reapply for,
An ADU.
And you can.
Exactly.
That was the argument for.
well,
changing
that, well, I'm trying to fill out the group here. You two are saying that's fine, Michelle's saying no, Peter, what's your thought?
I don't think you should be able to build a building at 10 feet and then a week later turn around and turn it into an ADU. I think that's skirting the rules. And I think there are people that would do that.
Okay.
I absolutely think that people would do that, because if people weren't
And
here
that's
to
not,
do.
I mean,
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't wanna be more restrictive, but by the same token, I don't want people abusing the rules to get what they want.
And the only reason we have this issue is because somebody brought it up, which means somebody thought about it.
And, but again, in all reality, it's the one, this is a serious one-off.
A what?
Most-
One-off.
One-off situation where somebody's gonna build something brand new,
Right.
wait a month with nefarious
Yeah,
intent to come in and skirt the rules. A lot of people coming in, their garage doesn't need it. And they wanna do an ADU in it. That's the bigger person that I
Yeah.
saw. So,
But if you have this verbiage in, you're restricting people who have an existing house, would love to do an ADU, but because it can't meet an extra 5 feet, they
Right.
can't do this anymore.
Exactly.
even if 2 owners ago built a garage to that 10-foot standard, you are now handcuffed.
Yeah.
To not be able, because of somebody's decision 10 years ago.
Right,
So one day, 10 years,
right.
the setback's a setback, so you gotta really be careful with how you dictate history with this one.
Yeah.
That's.
But you're gonna have people on both sides of that. So how do you're not gonna make everybody happy.
never
I mean, if you don't,
Never happened.
no, I know, but if you don't do this, you're gonna, and it's a by right decision for the zoning administrator. You're gonna have neighbors come around like they were on Garfield Street,
Well, it's,
screaming.
and that's okay. I mean, I don't wanna be cold about it, but
Right.
people come and yell about everything.
Yes.
Yes. I
From
know.
sitting in the desk, this was one of many things that people complain because somebody was building a deck, somebody was cutting trees.
Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
I mean.
But I think,
Yeah.
I mean,
You're gonna complain more.
but I think,
That's my
but I
point,
did,
so-
But it's also their land and it's their building.
I agree.
And currently, our regulations say that 10 feet is fine and you can put the ADU in there unless we put this in. And then, I don't know, I just feel that with this language, I understand the one side, but then just putting more restrictions on it.
Yeah.
When we're trying to, at the same time, while we're trying to encourage it.
Right. It just seems counterintuitive, right?
but I don't wanna,
The state's
when
really
Kevin,
encouraging it.
Well, I think, you know what, another thing that we're not even thinking about is a lot of these people do this and they never upgrade their wastewater permit.
Mhm.
They just
Mhm.
tie into their existing septic system, which isn't,
And actually, they are, I mean, to get it permitted,
Right.
one of the 4 criteria is you have to have an updated wastewater permit.
Mhm.
Right.
So that piece we're stopping, hopefully.
that stops a lot of.
It does.
Yeah, okay.
I mean,
If they follow the rules.
I don't know.
Right.
I kind of agree with Michelle. I mean, I don't wanna, sometimes you just say, you know what, we can't put 10 gallons of water in this 5-gallon pail. We can't put all this on this piece of land. We don't have enough room, you know? My wife and I bought our house in 1988 and our deed says we own approximately 10 feet to the west side of the house. We all of us got it surveyed. You know how close I am to the side of the neighbors? 18 inches in the front and 18 inches in the back. My corner of my house is 18 inches.
So that, where your hot tub is, that deck?
No, that isn't, but I had to buy 9 feet off the neighbor and, yeah. So, yeah, there's a lot of, but if I built my garage, I could do the ADU now because I pulled it in and I pulled it out back. But I'm gonna have to agree with Michelle that you know, have a plan in place. If you wanna say, I'm gonna build in a garage and I know I'm coming back in 6 months, cause my mother-in-law's coming, and then we're gonna put in the.
I mean,
accessory.
I see where you guys are coming from with the pre-existing
Yeah.
buildings. I see that, you know, if somebody bought the property, not realizing that's what they wanted to do, and then they said, oh, I wanna put an ADU in there, if we put this in there, then they're like, oh, you can't do that.
If you wanna skirt it, define what new construction is, put a time, this could not occur within 2 years. There has to be 2 years has to pass before you could put an ADU in. So you don't have the person who's coming in 3 months later to intentionally skirt the rule.
So you're saying, you know, and a new structure. A new structure after such.
And you cannot put an ADU in any structure that's newer than 2 years old. Gone.
Or maybe the ADU is,
Well,
for
that's
family
not
members
gonna work.
only. What's
That's
that,
not gonna
Kevin?
work, Chris. We can't impose restrictions on ADUs that are more restrictive than the primary rentals.
I just don't think that it's going to be a huge problem in the number of instances we're talking about. And what the new zoning is supposed to do is increase density, because what will happen, the demand is there. So what will happen is just sprawl, like we will start to look more like Heinsberg and Williston over time. And that's what we're saying we don't want. And so if somebody has a garage that has an apartment over it, that brings them into like a walking downtown. It creates a downtown feel. People still know their neighbors instead of this suburban sprawl. And so, you know, as somebody who lives in the village and who has a big lot owned by an elderly person right across the street from them, this is likely going to be what happens across from me. And I think it's a good thing. It will bring young people into our community. They're going to send their kids to school. They're going to pay taxes. They'll start new businesses, like that kind of vitality. We don't want those people, you know, 20 miles out of Bristol, not feeling connected to the village. I think we want the density.
She
So-
just described you and me.
Let you make those choices, right? But I mean, for a lot of people, they want to be close. They would prefer to be close.
I was close.
I mean, I see your point there, Jessica, because, but you're talking across the road. Picture up my garage with my back window and I can look down in the neighbor's bathroom.
Yeah, but I had that exact same
You
situation.
know, they're gonna say,
right? Yeah.
come on, he's looking right into my, you know, they can look right into my, you know, it's 10 feet. It's 10 feet. Is 5 gonna do it? I hear Ian saying, is 5 gonna do it? Probably not, but.
Right, I just.
You're quibbling over 5 feet. If you have
We
a
are.
DA,
It's not really gonna make a big difference.
If you're worried about somebody looking out their window into your window,
You shouldn't be living in the village.
Yeah.
No, we shouldn't be.
Fences,
That's
right?
what I'm
saying, 5 feet isn't gonna stop that.
No.
Right,
To make shades.
Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
exactly, put on your shades.
But also
right?
too, I mean,
5 feet is less than this table.
yeah,
Yeah.
oh, yeah. I mean, part of it too is that there have been a lot of these conversions already happening that we haven't had any complaints about. And the barns are there and you can just walk around the village and see them already happen because we're allowing people to do this because of our regulations. And we haven't really had any blowback from that. You know, the one had a number of things,
Right.
you know, connected to it.
Irregularities.
Yes,
Right.
exactly, which those other ones did not.
Mhm.
And so I don't think the 5, you know, and I was a proponent, you know, to have the extra 5 feet, just to allow that buffer, but I think, as Jessica said, the whole thing is that we're trying to encourage people.
Yeah.
to
And
do
if you're in the village setting, you
Right.
expect to be.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If you wanna be out in the Hicks like Michelle, then you'll buy
That's
out
where
in the
you
Hicks.
buy.
Yeah.
I wish I were
And
on
also
the
we-
Hicks.
but
I'm
also
not on the
we have-
Hicks.
Not anymore.
We have the restrictions with the ADUs and what they can and can't be, you know, in terms of operating or using only 900 square feet of space, lesser number of bedrooms, things like that. It's not like people are putting 2 houses on their lots.
Right,
with an
and the
existing
height
barn
restriction.
Or a new
Yeah, I see your
construction.
point there.
So,
So, yeah, and the other piece, Kevin had mentioned concern of secondary out-of-state buyer buying these.
right,
They have to be owner occupied, one or the other.
right,
So you keep that
Yeah.
investor piece out of that particular scenario.
Just for the record, I've often had, I've questioned that criterion, because how do you regulate that? How do you enforce that? We don't monitor who's living where. It's just.
Well, it would probably be a complaint from somebody from
I
another.
think so. It's, I don't know, it's, you know, the use is the use is the use.
Right.
And how, I don't know, I've always had a problem with that.
Leave it at
Oh, yeah, okay.
leave it at
Okay.
10. Okay.
Alright, so we don't accept the changes to the two districts.
We're gonna put them back to what they were
Put 'em-
originally.
Yeah, they'll be at 10 and 10 for those two areas. And then what was and then we're not gonna do that. So yeah, we don't accept that. Even though you and I spoke greatly and helped craft that.
We didn't really help
Now talk-
craft that, they
So we're not
Yeah,
gonna
but
make
I
any, don't need a vote here then, or?
No.
Right.
Okay.
Right,
And
so.
this is just preparation so that I know what to.
Wait, Kevin.
Okay, Kevin.
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
procedurally, you've got to, that's a substantive change. So
Yeah.
you have to send it back to the PC for comment, only comment. And then you have, and that has to be at least 10 days prior to the final hearing. Or any hearing, or the next hearing, so you're gonna have a vote to adopt, so you've gotta build in.
Sharon
Enough
gave us those
for the
dates.
PC to react to your change, but
Yeah.
then you're free to do
On turn the
what you want at the next hearing, which can be the final hearing if you're ready.
Right, that should be the final hearing because we want to be able to vote on it on November 5th.
Yeah, but that has to be, PC's not meeting until
The
17th.
And
And
the
Sharon, you
meeting's the
gave us the
23rd.
dates of when we had to have it by, because we had the notice
And it
in
has
paper.
We have to have a ballot 20 days prior to November 5th.
So October 15th, by no later.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we could do the ballot, right? Saying we're gonna
Not if
vote on the
they-
unified,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
we may not know the contents, but we can just put it on the ballot.
Yeah,
Well, it'll be a
Right,
local
right.
ballot anyways. We'll be
Right,
doing
yeah.
it in
Okay,
house.
so that's
It's
fine.
too late to go on the
Yeah,
regular state
okay.
ballot.
So the
Okay.
ballot would be general, just
Right.
vote on amendments to
Yeah.
the.
What amendments are they? We don't know yet.
Stay tuned.
Kevin, go ahead.
So essentially the PC is amending its report. What it's given you, what's before us tonight is a report. And so they're amending their report. Now, that doesn't have to get to you before the next hearing. It could even be submitted to you at your next hearing. So you've
Okay.
got to give them 10 days to get something to you, at least 10 days to get something to you, and that's all you have to do.
Okay.
Okay.
So we might be looking at October 14th then
Okay.
for the hearing.
We just gotta get
For us.
the stuff to the PC before the meeting on the 17th.
Right.
Oh,
Gotta give it to them 10 days before the 17th.
No, they just need it for the 17th, and then they have 10 days to
17th the
respond.
27th.
They have till the 27th.
Well,
to
you gotta
get
get
it
it,
back to
10
us.
you gotta get it to them 10 days before your final hearing.
Right,
Oh,
Okay.
right.
Not there.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
Gotcha.
are we as clear as mud here on this one? We can move to the next one?
So Val, will you just email Kevin? Do you need to do how do
Do
you
we need to
respond
do
to
a
that?
memo?
Do
How
you,
do I respond to what?
To Kevin's,
to,
how do we respond to
Well,
Kevin?
what I would do is I would make the adjustments in the draft regulations, and that's what I would forward to them and say,
All right.
this is what's now being proposed for a final public
And
hearing.
FYI, none of what you changed, we have, the
Okay, so
select
yeah.
board agreed to.
send that doc to us so we can have a final look at it,
Yeah.
another version.
Yeah.
And then I'm happy to attend that next meeting to explain why we then changed what we previously talked about. Okay.
Okay,
People can't make up your mind.
we all set?
Seriously.
Yes.
Consider recreation.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks,
Thanks, Kevin.
Good
Next
night.
one,
See you tomorrow.
Consider Recreation Department request to apply for a Vermont Humanities Rapid Response Grant of $1,000 to support the Bristol community.
So moved.
Yes, second.
Second, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Bye.
Opposed? Abstained? Did you
No, good, I'm good. I'm sorry.
authorize use of technology reserve fund to pay for replacement of the town administrator's laptop?
Absolutely not.
So abusive. It's already in the pay orders.
Stop throwing it
It'll be
across
here
the
Thursday,
room.
right? It's in the pay orders.
So moved.
Is the second?
Is this your second one, Val?
Okay, let's go.
No,
Bob
this is
Bass,
first.
thank
Is this
you.
your first?
Yeah.
Is that for some reason I thought
Okay.
we replaced yours?
No, I had a
Questions?
desktop before that.
Any questions?
Yes.
Got it?
I asked the last time about a detailed spreadsheet on the town technology. Because I have no clue of how old your other laptop was. Is it in the queue to be updated anyway?
It was 4 years old.
Okay, do we have a spreadsheet that has all that? And do we have a
Somewhere.
technology upgrade plan?
Dominion Tech was supposed to have developed one.
Yeah, there's one somewhere. I've seen it. I
Okay.
just gotta find it.
But that
Hers was barely 4 years old.
Okay,
So,
because I request more money for the technology fund because I'm trying to update the website and it keeps disappearing into laptops being bought. Because either they're dropped or they're old. So I would love to see like a
Or
technology.
heavily used.
Well, but
4 years old.
4 years old is not that
Not
old.
old.
And so.
It is in technology. I am sorry, from coming from the IT world, it used to be a 3-year cycle when we replace machines out.
Right, so I'd like to see if we have one of those, especially, I mean, not just the desktops or laptops, but other stuff that we have here too.
Your phone.
I don't know if Dominion Tech does that, hopefully, for the amount we
We
pay them,
don't
maybe
go
they
on
do
4 years. I
that.
think we're at
well,
5
we
or
did
6.
an initial one. I need to find it.
Okay,
Okay,
And last year, the motherboard on the other one was replaced.
Yeah, my motherboard's been replaced and it's also
can
doing.
we?
Maybe
yeah,
we
are there
should change
other
from Dell.
machines? Right, maybe, is there
Yeah,
something
there you
else?
go.
Do we need to do
Don't type so
PCs?
hard.
Well, the other
Okay,
laptop for
okay.
land records
We're
is
getting
still
on.
working fine and that one's
So-
older.
let's get in that thing and
It might be the pressure, the use, the volume of use that it gets.
They can just tell the stress that you're under and it's adapting to that.
yeah, all those in favor of that reserve fund be paid for Valerie's computer, please say aye.
Thank you.
Please say aye.
Aye,
Okay. Opposed, staying, okay.
get her 2.
Review of meeting minutes,
None,
none.
sorry.
Authorize accounts payable warrant and any liquor or tobacco.
We didn't bring them in.
There's no liquor or tobacco. I'm going to get the,
Too late
Somebody
now.
was-
No
We'll
liquor
get
or
it next
tobacco.
meeting.
Somebody was slacking. Peter was the first one in. He's supposed to grab them.
Wow.
They weren't on the
You know that was
counter,
your
they're on
job,
the
didn't
desk.
you?
Yeah, I think that, no. He wouldn't have seen
I'm
them
not
because they were.
authorized to touch them for rule.
I didn't see him here. I
Touch
saw
him when
your
you
stuff.
sign.
117,000.
no,
No,
No, no,
Change.
she's changed it.
it's 124,235.27.
Well,
we were given bad information.
No, it was updated.
I
Check
know
your
you did. Last
email.
one came
I
in
know
at
you did.
3:30 this afternoon, probably, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
read
it's
the
probably
email,
about that.
About that problem.
please.
To me, Sharon. No, they shouldn't be. They're not in, we meet every 2 weeks. Most
Well,
businesses,
sometimes it's 3 weeks.
well, most businesses wait 30 days for their money. Yeah. One comes in at 3:30.
Well, she might hold it for 30 days, just the same.
All right, what's next?
Yeah,
Okay.
then I
Keep
get a
moving.
late fee.
Keep moving. We're almost done.
Select board roundtable. Peter,
I am good.
Jessica?
Yeah, I don't think I have an update yet. We talked at the library meeting, but it was executive session. I'll have an update next time.
Okay. Just, well, never mind. I'll ask it another night.
Okay.
Ian,
I have some updates. So I sent the RFP for the library steps rebuild to Val and to Katie, head library director, for review. So working on that. I'm gonna start working with Frida on an RFP for the library building updates, which coincides with the grant that we hopefully will receive. Fingers crossed. And that's a lot of sort of the fixing the buildings, mostly external. We want to sort of prepare that, be ready for that. I reviewed and updated the RFP, doing a lot of RFPs, for the Bristol Skate Park project. Shot a bunch of drone photos for that RFP, and this is asking, putting it out for bid to have a company come and design the new skate park. Working with Taylor to update the technology and the Wi-Fi system at the hub, since it's pretty lacking and there's a lot of people and users there and it barely works. And then continue to work with Chris and Sharon on the Municipay credit card system updates. And there you go.
okay, Michelle?
I had something, but I can't remember what it was. So I forgot to write it down. So I
Go right
guess it's
down.
fine. Oh, I did when I was sharing parent construction. Was that the
Yes.
repair work by Roberts?
I've had people ask me, whatever happened, or did we ever do a survey on the bandstand?
The survey was online.
Was
Yeah.
it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Posted the front
And
porch
I
forum.
think the Bristol, the band was reviewing it, but that information hadn't gotten to.
No.
2 Wednesday nights I went by, they were all out on the lawn in chairs, so nobody using it, so. And I wanted to show you, pass these around. When I was in Maine, I was on my bicycle and I went through Ocean Park, Maine. And there's a bandstand, looks just like ours, and I got a wraparound.
It's not, well, it's like ours, but it's only like 2 feet off the ground.
No, it's not. No, it is less, but look at the picture before you comment, Michelle.
Well, I was
please.
looking at the picture.
I wish I brought my iPad. And my other thing is, Pine Street Catch Basin, Peter, I'd like you to relook at that. Peter and I looked at the one by my place. And we think it may not, we think it'll work. But I don't think the one where they put, I think the water coming down Taylor Avenue is still gonna go, isn't gonna get to the 2 over there. I think it's still gonna go drive down Jackman Drive. And I'd like you to look at that, you and Eric again. And then I'm gonna ask the elephant in the room question. Briggs Hill.
What about it?
I know FEMA's and Du Bois and King are working on it and $2.5 million. And do we really think we're gonna spend that kind of money on that thing? And I mean, an excavator in town that's sitting across from me gave us a price. I won't say the amount, but it was, I think we ought to really consider as a board of just doing that repair and not trying to put out $2.5 million worth of work. I realize if FEMA does it. FEMA pays us, but I don't see it getting repaired for another year at least, and I think that we ought to have a real conversation on the agenda about just doing a emergency repair now to the tune of maybe $250,000-$300,000 and do it with stone, right from the bottom of Lincoln Road all the way up.
the bottom,
Well, somewhere
from the shelf.
from the shelf.
They just did the same exact thing on 17. They
Yeah,
found a
I
wash
looked at it
there.
this afternoon.
That they didn't have engineered. They built it just the way I showed you on that one.
Where
They
is
started
17?
out with the great big rock down at the bottom and then, built their wall at the bottom and then sloped the rock back at the
Is that
top.
the one right below Memorial Park or?
No, it's the one right by, Dustin, where it's as you head up the mountain on the left.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I ran down there the other day.
Yeah, so I
There
just,
was, I went down by there yesterday, there was an excavator down over there and it was,
It
I
was a
didn't
long
even-
ways down.
I didn't even know it was there when I went up. When I
Mhm.
came back down through, I saw it.
Mhm.
But
It was
that
quite
was
an
the same.
operation.
They've been working on several spots on it.
so,
I mean,
Yeah,
we
that's
haven't,
been
we
good.
haven't made a decision on what to do.
Good for
We've
you.
talked about various possibilities, but a decision hasn't been made. But I'm not supporting 1 whatever,
2.1,
Yeah,
whatever. it
I
was,
can't
yeah.
support that, it's
I know.
impossible.
Valerie said our
Well, and
road,
FEMA's not. gonna
Capital
pay for
Road
it.
is, pretty, yeah, we're never gonna get anything close to that. So-
Well, also what worries me is that even if we did, and I don't think it's practical to do that. The FEMA is focusing on just those 2 spots that were injured
Right.
a year ago, but meanwhile, it's grown.
Right.
And it's going to continue to grow.
If we don't do something.
Well, it's growing because the water
Right.
is shedding over it. And that, once the rock was in there, I mean, I thought about it today. When we do river cribbing, that's almost straight up. If you go up the side of Lincoln Road, and that's got water coming down through there with
All the
ice
time.
and
Right.
rock and rocks and
Trees.
trees and it works there. Why wouldn't it work on something that just had water running off? And that gets the water running off, anywhere the river is, the water runs off the road into the river. So, I'm very confident that it would work. It's
The
not,
concern I have is there are several areas on the uphill travel lane that are clearly being undermined now, that are outside of the area we're talking about. So, the rock approach for that particular area is not going to address those others that are also.
but the engineer's not addressing those.
Oh, I
either.
know. That's
And, and we're spending we're spending as much money on engineering as
Over
what,
$100,000.
as what it would have cost to fix it originally.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I just think that we gotta have a real good conversation about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's all I have. So,
I know,
Sharon?
yes, I have something for our roundtable. We still have not received the money for the water loan, and we got a request late today while you were gone. They need all the invoices stamped by an engineer before they'll go any further, so we still don't have.
The revolving, the water revolving
Pine
loan
Street
line
is
for Pine
780.
Street?
Yeah, we haven't got it yet, and we gotta, while you were gone, we got an email, they want all the invoices stamped by an engineer, and I'm like, well, how is Steve gonna?
What's he gonna
Stamp
stamp
his
it?
own invoices, plus there are some other ones, but, so that's where we are on that money.
You gotta be kidding me.
That's not identified anywhere.
That was the email we got from the
And that was
state
all the
today.
detail it said was.
Yeah, you need to have these stamped by an engineer.
Did Steve and Jill also get that email or just?
I don't remember who was on, I think just the three of us
Okay,
were on
let's
it.
obviously let them know. because-
Yeah, well, he's still on,
didn't
but.
get it.
I don't think.
I don't think he's really on.
Yeah, I don't know if he is or not,
Okay.
but.
No, he's.
He's
there.
connected, but I don't
He
think
might
he's
not be
there.
there.
Can't respond. Remember?
Well, that's unfortunate. Holy
Yeah.
moly.
Well, let's
So, and it's
get him over here. and
It
get him-
seems,
Right, we need- we
it
need that.
seems they
We
keep
need it.
changing the rules. Again.
Okay. All right, so I'd entertain the motion. Any other correspondence or anything?
You still gotta do Valerie's.
No, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
She wants to
Town
get.
administrator, I'm sorry, Valerie.
No, no,
Oh,
it's okay.
No,
You've already heard my rants and raves, so. I
About
don't have
your
anything to
computer.
add.
your
Oh my
computer.
God, yeah, it's.
I could see you were frustrated. You email. I'm at it. I was gonna put down.
Can we get you a Mac instead?
I've got a Mac at home and I'm still trying to get used to it.
gonna
They're
say-
very
Well,
different.
then it would be good.
I was gonna say, when you get up the top of 17, throw it out over the cliff.
It's
I don't know,
hard
she's probably
to,
gonna be fined or something.
it's hard to explain, and I don't want to. The quantity of time that got just down the toilet dealing with all this stuff, that just, it's hard to imagine how it could be so time consuming, but it was.
Oh, no,
It
it's
is,
not.
still is.
It's not, it's very frustrating when something doesn't work the way it's supposed to.
Well, trying to
It's
figure
ironic.
out the workarounds.
I guess the last thing is sorry, was Eric had Michael grade, did a nice job, living looks good. And, but boy, that street's a lot wider now, people said, and he widened there. I said, we're not paving out all
Which street, Pine Street?
Pine Street, down by my end, it was.
It's a walking pass.
They all want
And I
sidewalks
did
down
get
there,
a-
so
I
they
did
all
get-
Front
want.
yard.
So, anyway,
All right, I'll
okay,
take a look.
taking, anything else, Valerie? You
No,
don't have
I'm
any other correspondence from anybody?
Not that I
Reports?
found.
I'm just asking what it says here.
Yeah. no.
Reports, okay.
No.
I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
He did the motion.
All right, we're done.
Good job.
Hey, thanks, Shane.